mainly because it's tipping over 5 hours right now. Okay. So when Jared comes in, Melissa, make a note of it to put it on the record in, okay? All right, call to order. Valerie?
Here.
Luke?
Here.
Jimmy? Jimmy Tarlo?
Yeah.
I'm assuming he said here. Jimmy, if you said something, your mic is off or on mute.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I could hear you now. Thank you, Jimmy. It was very low. All right. So we have quorum. So we're going to proceed with starting the meeting at 7:02 p.m. Council, can you please review the agenda? And please mark Councilmember Jared Stofos in as well. Jared, can you go ahead and read the agenda? I just called the meeting to order maybe like 10 seconds ago. Okay, go ahead.
Number 1, call to order. Number 2, review of the agenda. The mayor and council will review the agenda for the meeting, adding or deleting topics of interest or discussion. Number 3, presentation and discussion on the 90-day 2022 legislative session debriefing, 20 minutes. The mayor and council receive a presentation from Greenwell Consulting Group on the 90-day 2022 legislative session. Number 4, update, discussion, and vote on Potts Hall or the Welcome Center, 20 minutes. The city manager will give an update to the mayor and council, and they will have a discussion and possible vote on Potts Hall, Welcome Center. Number 5, public comment. Number 6, closed session summaries, 10 minutes. The mayor and council review the closed session summary from May 4th, May 12th, and June 8th from the vice mayor. Number 7, second reading and adoption of Ordinance 5/2022, amending Chapter 24, Boards, Committee, and Commissions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Mount Rainier to add Title 3, Police Review and Advisory Board, and repealing Ordinance Number 8/2020. The mayor and council have the second reading and adoption of Ordinance 05/2022. Number 8, introduction and adoption of emergency Ordinance 6/2022, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Mount Rainier. Chapter 9, parking meters, Section 9-108, collections, provide for the engagement of debt collection contractors to recover outstanding unpaid fines for parking meter violations. The mayor and council will introduce and adopt the emergency ordinance 6/2022. Number 9, vote on approval of minutes. 5 minutes. The mayor and council will vote on approving the minutes. May 2nd, 2022, special legislative swearing-in ceremony. May 4th, legislative meeting. May 12th, special legislation meeting. May 17th, work session. Number 10, adjournment.
So I will read it separately. Jared, can you move it up, Melissa? And I've asked Melissa to make a note for Potts Hall to discuss outside legal help.
Yes.
And as well, I know Jimmy, you wanted to make sure we do a follow-up with one of the secretariats. That's also gonna be there. So that was like consensus to move forward with it, okay? So that was together. All right, council, this part of the special legislation meeting, does anybody has any changes to the agenda? Do you have public comment on this part, Melissa? I didn't see it. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much. Okay. If I'm not hearing anything, I will take it as like there are no changes to the agenda and you guys have a consensus to adopt this agenda as presented. Okay. Thank you for reading it, Vice Mayor. Okay, item number 3, presentation and discussion on the 90-day 2022 legislative session debrief. There's 20 minutes, 10 of those will be presenting. The mayor and council receive a presentation from Greenwell Consulting Group on the 90-day 2022 legislative session. I reminded to council that we do have an agreement that the first round that we speak is 3 minutes. The second one's 2, the last one is 1. And also to ask your questions in a bulk instead of like one at a time and go back and forward, so that way we cut some of the extra time. All right, so we do have representatives from Greenwell Consulting here with us. I see Jacob. Hello, Jacob. And who else do we have? Leslie as well is here. So I'm gonna cede the floor to Jacob or Leslie, whoever wants to go first. And definitely thank you so much for the work that you guys have done this legislative year for us. So the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mayor. And yeah, so Ivan just had an emergency, so he wasn't able to hop on tonight. But certainly you've got me and Leslie here, and I've been with Greenville for about 3 years, and sort of before that, I was focused in municipal government and working with some municipalities and county governments out in Western Maryland and Southern Maryland. So very familiar with the process, and happy to finally be speaking before you all. But yeah, like the mayor said, we were with the the city of Mount Rainier this session. It was very great. We got to a late start, but we're able to still get a lot done, which was pretty exciting. And I'll let Leslie go into that in a bit. But first, I wanted to sort of just go over some of the general, kind of big ticket items from this session. Number one was the budget. After last year's virtual session, and nobody really at that point knowing what direction the pandemic was going to take or what impact that was going to have on the national or global economy, let alone the state economy. We were very excited to see the tax revenues were higher than expected, and there was quite a large surplus. And the General Assembly wasted no time in trying to put that surplus to use. So there was a $7.7 billion capital budget, which was one of the largest we've seen. And then, of course, this was in addition to the government's operating budget. Apart from that, this was the year they finally took a vote on cannabis. So cannabis will be on the referendum for November. It's expected to be, to pass. Most polling has it about 60 to 70% likelihood of passing, which means the General Assembly next year will work out the sort of pathways for legalization. Who's going to have a say in that? Who are the stakeholders? They just held their first work group for what that process will look like, what the tax structures, how many new licenses will be created. They just had that first work group last week. So, we will continue to send you guys updates as that goes on. A lot of the stuff we do with the city is, very, very specific, very city-based, but we also want you all to sort of be aware of the big ticket items, because especially with an industry as big as cannabis, or say, the gaming industries, there are impacts that come from those things. So other than that, climate was huge this year. There was the Climate Solutions Now bill that they've tried to pass for a few years, finally passed. And so that is going to take effect later this year. Again, we can send you a breakdown to that. Some other municipalities that we work with were very intrigued to see what, sort of the ramifications of that were going to be from, an environmentalist standpoint, and also, a construction standpoint for new buildings and construction. With that being said, those were sort of that's the quick version of what happened kind of on a big scale, but I'll let Leslie talk more about some of the work that we did with Mount Rainier.
Thank you, Jacob. Leslie, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Jacob and Mayor. Again, my name is Leslie Felice. I am the executive assistant at Greenville. Been with Greenville since November of last year, and it's a pleasure seeing you all again. As Jacob said, after our strategy meeting in March, we quickly got to work on our campaign to help secure funding for the city. Since we had started late in the session, it was very important for us to work as fast as possible to help secure funding in this year's budget. We worked very closely with Senator Augustine, who was a great ally. We were able to educate him on the project. And this is when the fact sheet we worked on together played a critical role, as this was able to educate him more on why this is important to the city and why we need this funding. And again, since this was so late in the process, Senator Augustine had to do something that is called the suspension of rules in order to introduce this initiative. And this was critical because not only the Senate president, but all of the senators had to come into agreement. So in addition to Senator Augustine, we also worked with Senator Cory McCray, who is a key player in the capital budget subcommittee. And we also had great allies in the House, such as Delegate Fennell and Delegate Ivy. All of these people helped advocate for this project as well. And during those final days, we were texting, calling, running from building to building to make sure this was in this year's budget. And we were very happy to announce that $250,000 was secured in this year's funding for the Welcome Center. And in addition to this, we are also happy to announce that 1.4 million was secured in pre-authorization for next year's budget. We're very happy about this because it will put the city at a head start next session, and we look forward to continuing to work with the city to keep this in the budget next session. And we have begun preliminary conversations with members on the appropriations and the Budget and Taxation Committee, such as Delegate Chang, who is the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee. And next week, we'll be talking to Senator McCray. So again, we are very happy and we look forward to seeing the city begin to work on this Welcome Center. And with that being said, if you'll have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Leslie. And for those that I'm not fully aware, the Welcome Center, it's Star Potts Hall. That is where our Welcome Center is at. So I'm going to go to the council. Thank you both, Jake and Leslie, not just for the presentation, but for your great work, as well as Ivan, and we hope everything's going along fine with him. So I'm going to go to Jimmy, Luke, Valerie, and Jared. Go ahead, Jimmy, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie, and thanks, Ivan and the team for the work. Could you check the one, I thought it was 1.25, not 1.4 million. You check?
Yeah, we'll pull that.
I mean, that's what he previously told us. You know, $150,000 is no big deal, but.
Hey, yeah, no, but it matters when you're doing the budget. Yeah, we'll double check on that.
So just check for us, okay? Thanks.
Okay, while they're checking on that, Luke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jacob, Leslie, just thanks for coming out tonight and giving this presentation. Appreciate all the work you do for us. Appreciate all the work we hope you will do for us, getting more funding for this project and perhaps other things in Mount Rainier. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Luke. Valerie?
Yeah, thank you for presenting and explaining what you guys have been doing. Just one question. Do you think there's any way of increasing the pre-authorization next year for this project? Where you get to
that's one of the the pieces that we can talk about. So probably around September, October, the budget's in the House this year, which works well for us. Like Leslie said, we're very close with Delegate Mike Chang, who is on the Capital Budget Committee in the House. We're also have a good working relationship with the Speaker. But around September, October is when they're going to start talking about the budget for next year, including those pre-authorizations. So if we can get a good idea of the number that we need, what we're looking for, any sort of information you guys have on specifics of, cost breakdowns, the earlier around that September mark that we can get those numbers in front of people, the higher our likelihood of increasing that prior authorization number is going to be.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Valerie and Jacob. Jared?
Just thanks for all the work you're doing and great presentation tonight, and looking forward to the work going forward and your support. So thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Which is very timely because the next point after you guys is actually update discussion and vote on Potts Hall, because we want to make sure we get some decisions made, and at the same time our team gets to work on it this summer so that we could provide you as much information as we possibly can when it comes to the Welcome Center. Okay, Jacob and Leslie, and Jacob, Leslie, and Ivan, thank you so much. I know we had a conversation early in the year, and then we had we committed to you guys helping us later in the season, as you guys mentioned. The fact that you guys were able to get quite a bit of funding, it's very we're very happy with that. And I'm going to open right now the floor to the community to see if they have any questions. Does anybody in the community would like to speak? I see Brian Eller here. Brian, any questions? Brian Eller was a former council member, former mayor, former vice mayor, and now is one of our advisors for the Design Review Board and historian. Okay, let me see. I don't see anybody. Anybody on Facebook has a question regarding the presentation?
No comments.
Thank you so much. Okay, so if you guys could give us the exact numbers, you guys could email them to us so that we have it like in front of us of what it looks like, Jacob and Leslie, unless you guys already have it.
Yeah,
That definitely will help.
yeah. Actually, I can. Councilman and Mayor, you were right. It is 1.25. The 1.25 million in prior authorization. So I guess now we owe you 1.4 million since I said that on public forum.
We probably need more for taxation for saying it. But okay, thank you.
Right.
And Council, thank you guys so much for the questions. Anybody needs to go a second round, let me know. If not, we will thank our consulting team. And we'll move on to the next point. That's actually Potts Hall. So if you guys could stay on, I mean, you'll hear plenty of good information that you could take with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you, everybody.
perfect. So Council, I'm gonna move on to the next item. Item number 4, update, discussion, and vote on Potts Hall. The city manager will give an update to Mayor and Council as they will have a discussion and possible vote on Potts Hall Welcome Center. Okay, so Mr. Kamali, can you give us an update on Potts Hall, please?
Yes, Mayor. As Mayor and Council requested, tonight we have an attorney to provide some information on both options that I have obtained from DHCD and our bank, which is the Truist Bank. And moving forward, so we need to have some advice for the legal, and then we can take it from there. So I think Lindsay rather should be on the call, and if you allow, she can join us and talk to Mayor and Council in this regard.
So thank you, Mr. Kamali. As a point of information, our lawyer, Elisa, recommended Lindsay because it's outside the scope of work that she's able to provide. And that's a recommendation he made to our city manager to reach out to Lindsay. And Mayor and Council had originally asked Mr. Kamali to get legal consultation and get us this answer. So that's what he made sure he reached out to Lindsay. Correct, Mr. Kamali?
Yes, Mayor. Yes.
Perfect. So we have Lindsay here. Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, all.
We need feedback when it comes to the process, and what can we do as council to be able to go out there and get some funding, including borrowing from the bank.
Let me give you an overview. If I could start by giving you an overview of how the DHCD and
Can you speak a little louder?
If I could start by giving you an overview of how each option would work. The DHCD option that Mr. Kamali mentioned is actually a program known as the Local Government Infrastructure Financing Program that is run by the Maryland Community Development Administration. And the Community Development Administration is often referred to as CDA. What CDA does is it contacts or pulls together a number of Maryland local governments, typically municipalities, sometimes some of the smaller counties, that have an interest in obtaining financing for various infrastructure projects. CDA then goes through a process of vetting those projects, undertaking some tax diligence using CDA's own bond counsel. Once everything is put together, and by put together, each of the participants in a particular pool has to enact an ordinance in the form that CDA typically requires. And under the statute that governs CDA's program, each local government has to hold a public hearing on the proposed financing before issuing the bonds, or actually before passing its ordinance. And so CDA has its own bond counsel, and I would serve as bond counsel to the city for this financing through CDA. CDA then puts together a disclosure document known as a preliminary official statement, which is circulated to investment banking firms. And on a particular date, CDA does what is known as pricing its bonds. So CDA is looking to issue revenue bonds to investors and then use the proceeds of those revenue bonds to make loans to the participating local governments. And each participating local government issues one or more general obligation bonds payable to CDA. So everybody talks in terms of a CDA loan, but what the city would actually be doing is issuing one or more general obligation bonds to CDA. CDA's program is a wonderful opportunity for local governments that are not active bond issuers to obtain financing. There are a couple nuances to the program though. One, you are subject to CDA's schedule because CDA has to put together a pool of interested participants in order to get a financing off the ground. And I happen to know because I was working with two participants, CDA was trying to do a financing that would have closed in July or August of this year, and all of the participants dropped out of that financing. So after speaking with Mr. Kamali this afternoon, I sent an email to Charlie Day and Daryl Conley of CDA asking if they have a target date for the next CDA financing, because I think that will factor into your decision as to which option you want to move forward with. The other thing about CDA, you will end up paying your share of CDA's financing team's cost as well as paying my firm. Your costs for the CDA financing team can sometimes be covered by the premium that CDA may receive from purchasers of CDA's own bonds. A really important point is just as homeowners often look to refinance their mortgages when interest rates drop, CDA does not allow you to prepay your bonds for approximately the first 10 years of financing term. So if you did a 15-year bond with CDA, you wouldn't have the right to prepay that bond for roughly the first 10 years. And that means that if interest rates dropped in that first 10-year period, you would be prohibited from refinancing your bonds issued to CDA unless you undertook what is known as an advance refunding. Conversely, the proposal that Truist Bank has provided, you have two prepayment options. One, you could prepay in whole only at any time during the financing term by prepaying a particular principal amount, by prepaying the outstanding principal of the bond plus a premium of 1%, or you could choose the option of having no ability to prepay the bond issued to Truist Bank for the first 5 years, and then in the second, at any time after the first 5 years, essentially, you could prepay the bond in whole at any time with no premium. So you get a better prepayment option from Truist than you do from CDA. With the Truist option, it wasn't clear from the proposal that is provided whether the interest rate that was quoted for the various options is a bank qualified rate or a non-bank qualified rate. Under the federal tax code, if an issuer reasonably expects to issue less than $10 million of tax-exempt debt in a calendar year, and it's a calendar year test, not a fiscal year test. Any of certain types of tax-exempt debt issued by the issuer can be designated as bank qualified. And if you are issuing that debt directly to a bank, you will be given a better interest rate, a lower interest rate. After speaking with Mr. Kamali this afternoon, I sent an email to the Truist Bank contact asking whether the quoted rates were bank qualified or not, because I understand from Mr. Kamali that this financing is the only financing the city intends to undertake in calendar year 2022. A bank qualified rate is not available through a CDA program financing. It's only available when you're issuing directly to a bank. With Truist, you would be issuing direct one or more bonds, probably just one bond directly to Truist. And it typically requires that in the event your bond is issued on a bank qualified basis, if you lose that bank qualification, then the interest rate will increase. Or if the interest on the bond is declared taxable, basically by the Internal Revenue Service, then the interest rate on the bond will increase. And they will either give you a formula for the increase, or they will actually include a stated higher interest rate in the bond. With CDA's program, with both programs, you will have to commit to provide your audited financial statements annually to either to CDA and to Truist. If you go with CDA, you may also be required to notify CDA of the occurrence of certain events that are required by SEC Rule 15C212. In every case, it's anticipated that your bond will be issued or bonds will be issued on a tax-exempt basis. What this means, and I see that it says time's up. Do you need me to stop talking or can I continue?
So go ahead and take 2 more minutes to wrap it up if you can, so we could figure out where council is at, because it's a lot of information all at once. So thank you for making sure you got on the ball really quickly and have answers, for us. So go ahead and wrap it up for the next 2 minutes, and then council start thinking about your questions, if any. Go ahead.
In speaking with Mr. Kamali this afternoon, because I saw that this was described as a welcome center, we discussed a little bit the use of the center. I understand the project's going to be owned by the city. It will be used by the council for meetings, but will also be available to the public. One thing I wanted to make very clear to you is if you're going to allow the public to use the facility, your ability to charge the public for the use is going to be limited because these are tax exempt bonds. Now, Mr. Kamali thought you were not anticipating necessarily charging anybody for use of the facility, but I just wanted to point out that with the bonds being issued on a tax exempt basis, you can't really use this facility as a moneymaker. So that's one important point. The other important point is the interest rates that both Truist Bank and CDA, the interest rates that CDA provided now are indicative only. Those are not necessarily the actual rates. If you go with the CDA program, again, we are dependent on when CDA is actually going to go to the market. And at the moment, we don't know that now. And you will not know the actual interest rates or your actual debt service schedule until CDA prices its own bonds. One of the questions that I sent to Truist Bank this afternoon is how long is it willing to hold its terms that it included in the proposal it sent Mr. Kamali last week. So I think at the end of the day, you are most likely to be able to get to closing with Truist Bank more quickly than you're going to be able to get to a closing with CDA. So it's just, if you're driving, unless CDA comes back and advises that they have a lot of interest from other jurisdictions and are ready to get going and get to closing fairly quickly, I think you can probably get to closing more quickly with Truist Bank.
All right.
So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm going to open up the floor to Constance. I'm going to go ahead and call you guys. The other thing I want to make sure to add, we had a conference with the Maryland Municipal League.
Yes.
And we did our homework. The whole entire council came together and spoke to the various secretariats that were present, all the representatives, including, including when it came to Potts Hall. So that was very good. Our chief of police also was able to talk to regarding some of the grants he was seeking as well. So I'm going to open the floor up to, I'm going to go with Luke, Jimmy, Jared, Valerie. Go ahead. Luke, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Lindsay, I'm going to just go through my thoughts, and then I'm going to ask you to let me know if my thoughts are on the right track or if you disagree in any way, shape, or form. So obviously the Fed's going to continue to raise rates in a high inflation environment. So the cost of borrowing is going to continue to go up. So if there's any delay in closing, that's going to come not to our benefit. I think that's reasonably foreseeable. The interest rate as is from Truist is significantly lower. I don't think the city is going to be in any position to, if we went with a loan from Truist, to pay it all back in 5 years. So getting an agreement to not pay it back in 5 years with the flexibility of paying it back after 5 years without the 1% premium sounds right to me, because I can't foresee the city paying it all off within a 5-year time frame, maybe 8 years down the line. Most likely even further down the line than that. And then Mayor and Council, Lindsay, I don't know if you saw this, but the chart that they put together that's in the agenda packet, I think it was the $2 million for 15-year loan from Truist is only about a little north of 3.5% interest, which is, almost a point less than what DHCD is offering us, not quite that much. And it would only create an added cost to our city budget if it replaced our current debt of almost $37,000. So that seems to me to be doable. So I think because the rate is lower, we can get to closing quicker before too many more interest rate hikes are coming. Although I don't know if we can get to closing before the next one comes. I think we go with Truist for $2 million at 3.5%, and then and then I would think we could pay off our current debt obligation, and then a hit to our budget would only be $36,000, which I think is very much doable for us. And that's sort of where my head is at. Lindsay, did that make sense?
Well, I think yes, certainly. If you're not anticipating closing in the first, or prepaying in the first 5 years. Taking the option, if you go with Truist, of you can prepay and hold only at any time after the 5 year with no premium is the way to go. And let me preface, as a lawyer, I can't give you financial advice.
Yeah,
so I can
gotcha.
say this,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But absolutely. And when I compared the schedules that Truist and CDA provided, and actually, I didn't see in the agenda exactly what was provided, but if it was what's included in the agenda, but if it's what was provided to me, the ticks that CDA included is the true interest cost, which isn't necessarily the interest rate, because the way CDA structures of financing, you pay a lower interest rate in the early years of an amortization and a higher interest rate that corresponds to the interest rate CDA is paying on its own bonds. So what CDA quoted were ticks, or true interest costs, which are sort of an amalgamation of the range of rates. So you can't really compare a tick and an interest rate from Truist as apples to apples. You're better off comparing the debt service schedules. And yes, when I looked at the debt service schedules, the debt service schedules on an apples to apples basis were lower from Truist than they were from CDA. So
great. Thanks.
Council, our clerk has alerted me we have 3 minutes left out of the 20-minute conversation. So can I ask for more time to be added since only one council member has spoken?
15 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for 15 minutes. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, any objection? Abstention? Hearing none, Melissa, add 15 more minutes after the 1.5 minutes that we have, okay? Okay, thank you. Jimmy, you're next.
I don't have much to add other than my mind's still spinning on this. Luke, if that's a recommendation, we should just make it. I actually need a recommendation, honestly. It's like too much details, and if you've looked into it, that's your recommendation, I'll support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared, then Valerie.
Yeah, so I'm again, Luke, you've been in this process and are on this project much longer than I have, but obviously with the direction rates are going, with the direction lending's going, it seems that it would be massively in our favor to move forward with pathway in front of us sooner rather than delaying. So but thank you, Lindsay, for the overview. That was, very, very concise and thoughtful explanation of a complex issue.
Welcome.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, well, thank you for briefing us on all that. I think, it still is I'd like to see a little bit more of like this is what we want to do. This is why we want to do it. This is our options. But I think, as Luke was saying, I think the truest bank, that option seems the most attractive at this point, but I'd still like to look a little further into that. And I'd like to continue to explore state funding through the state budget process, because that's where you can get a lot of funding for projects and programs that are public use in the future. But that's where I am. I don't really have any questions right now, but thank you for everything.
If it would be helpful to the council, I think once I get feedback back from both Truist and CDA, I could put together a document that kind of outlines the various considerations. To move, whatever we do, we're going to have you enact an ordinance. And I understand you go out typically on essentially recess for July or August. But depending on how long Truist is willing to hold its terms, I have a feeling you're going to want to come back into special session to get to closing as quickly as possible if you decide to go with the Truist option. I would prepare those, but I think first, once we get more details from CDA and Truist, I would be happy to put together a document that kind of lays it out, that is easier for you to refer back to and may help inform your decision-making process in terms of giving us the direction as to which way you want to go.
So thank you, Lindsay. So that was I'm next on the speaker list. That was going to be my ask to put this in a document, because there's a lot of information being put forward for us. I think council, we're meeting virtually, so I know we all have various trips during the week. It looks like we're a little more flexible, but we might have to reconvene. Elisa also did mention that there has to be, a resolution that also needs to be placed in order for us to do this as well. So it might not be as easy as we thought it was going to be. There's certain things that we need to take into account. So I will ask you guys to look at the calendar, maybe in the next week or so, week or two, to try to have a meeting and I'm going to be very clear, just on Potts Hall, to be able to gather whatever information, give time to Kamali, Elisa, and Lindsay to get the information in front of us. And if we need to pass something, that we're able to pass it. Okay, because at this point, it's like I'm hearing a lot of numbers, and I definitely would like to hear what answers are being brought back forward with both entities that Lindsay is still waiting on for us to make the decisions on how to move forward from this point. Lindsay, go ahead. You were going to say something?
Well, and I was going to say, Mayor, I think if Alyssa mentioned a resolution, really we would have to enact an ordinance in either case and not necessarily a resolution. And of course, under your charter, you follow the same process for an ordinance as you do for a substantive resolution. So it's going to, the actual legislation that authorizes the financing program you decide to go with is going to require introduction of an ordinance at one meeting and passage of that ordinance at least 14 days later. So I think if, we'll put together a document that outlines all the information that we have received, including the info we got back from Truist and from CDA, and perhaps at the meeting, the decision will just be a vote as to what direction you want to go, and then I will have to draft the ordinance. And in fact, if CDA is going to be coming to market sooner than I think it will be coming to market, and CDA seems to be the better route, I would draft the ordinance, but then we would need to allow CDA's bond council's time to review that ordinance. But we can work through the schedule once we know what direction we're going in.
I definitely have one ask, Mr. Kamali, Elisa, and you guys could work on it. I need a step-by-step process of what it looks like on the things that we need to do, because that way we could better guide ourselves in what we're expected to decide in the meeting and what the process look like. Because we found out about the ordinance. I apologize for misspeaking about the other one. We found about the ordinance and one of the emails recently, had we had known what pathways, maybe we could have better directed. So if you guys could draw, this is the next steps and what needs to be followed when the votes come in to facilitate us to be able to guide our time better. I think it'll be more of a guidance to council how to move forward and also at the same time be efficient with our time.
Absolutely.
Okay. So so I am gonna, I see hands, Luke hands raised. So Luke, I'm gonna open up the second round. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think if I understand next steps correctly, you're going to prepare a document that outlines all this stuff. What, putting aside the timeline, because I think it is, we get an outline of a comparison of the two processes. We have a meeting and tell you which one we want to go. You write an ordinance, we meet, introduce the ordinance. 14 days later, we have an ordinance, hold a vote and move forward. So let's back, right?
That is correct.
Right. So let's back that up then. Let's look at our calendars now. So 14 days to have the ordinance. That's 2 weeks time. So we're already into July. How long do you need to write up like the comparison between the two loans?
What's the 14 days? Excuse me, I asked.
It's
Yeah,
between the reading of the ordinance and then the passing of the ordinance.
Right.
So we can do the first one within 14 days.
Guys, if
Yeah,
one
yeah,
mic, I have 3 mics.
I'm getting there,
open
Jimmy.
right now.
Just wait. Just hold on. Let me run with this, Jimmy. So,
Okay.
Lindsay, how long is it going to take you to come up with like the comparison document?
I can get that to you sometime next week. And of course, I have to get answers back from
We have to
Truist
get the
and
answers.
CDA.
right?
So, the answers, depending on how quickly they get back to me, hopefully they'll both get back to me between tomorrow and Thursday. And then I can get the document to you, let's say by mid next week.
Okay. So then we could make a decision by like, is Thursday the 30th pushing it? Is that too soon of a meeting for us to review and give a direction?
Yes, because if I don't get you the document until Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yep. So now we're looking, So now we're looking after July 4th. So now we're looking the week of July 5th. So we would need to set up a meeting to pick a path forward the week of July 5th. And
So
I would just have the reading of the, how quick would it take you, once we say we want to go with Truist, how quick would it take you to draw up the ordinance? A day?
Maybe longer than a day, especially if Truist has language it needs me to include. I mean, the ordinance for Truist will be pretty substantial. It will be, 15 to 25 pages. It's not a 2-page ordinance.
Okay.
It lays out all the terms. The ordinance for CDA, because they have a fairly standardized ordinance, takes less time to draft. And that ordinance but we have to get information from CDA, and we have to factor in from the time I draft the ordinance, if I have a draft ready to go.
Yep.
We have to give CDA and its team 7 to 10 days to review the ordinance before we can even introduce it. And I guess one question for the city is, how far in advance of a scheduled meeting do you actually need an ordinance in your hands?
Not far.
Ideally, there's at least a 48 to 72 hours, so that we're like our clerk puts it together, because we need to put the notice of a meeting out. So we need to put it out. But I would say at this point, I would like for us to do a check-in next week to see if we need to have a schedule, a meeting on the 5th, because by the sounds of it, this is not like, we're not going to be able to figure out calendar tonight, unless you guys want to put 30 minutes on this agenda to figure out what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because it sounds very much like if it's 15 pages of documents plus the answers, that might not be substantially. We're going to have to go through the 15 and literally sit down and ask any questions if we need to. So I don't want to push it too far where we're expecting answers next week, and it might not be the reality between answers. And so I would say if we could do a check-in by Tuesday, would that work with you guys? On Tuesday to see where we're at, a week from now to see if any answers, and then figure out if we could put the meeting the following week to at least like give 7 days for us to like, for Lindsay to be able to do the document, but at least do a check-in with her next week to figure out like where we're at with the answers, and if the meeting is going to take place in 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. I think that might be more doable than sit here and try to nitpick a day, because it doesn't sound like that's going to be the right path for us to be able to figure out tonight.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. How far in advance does the city clerk need an ordinance before an actual meeting?
Melissa's 48 hours. We need to post the agenda out, and we also need to review it. And if you're talking about 15 pages, we need to make sure we do our due diligence to be able to see it. I know some of us are going to be traveling, so I'm taking into account that as well.
Yeah.
So Melissa, I said 48 hours you would like to know so you could put an agenda together, or 72? Melissa, you're on mute.
72, but also I'll be on vacation starting June 30th.
Okay. So you'll give us those days so that we know what's going on. I see Jimmy also put some, so let's do something. Let's have this conversation about the days offline, if that works better, so we know when Melissa's out and who's gonna take over posting agendas if we need to. And doing, because you do a lot of this extra administrative work behind the scenes, Melissa. Okay. And then we'll figure out where Mr. Kamali, you'll touch bases with Lindsay on Tuesday and give us a report where she's at to figure out if we need to put a meeting for the following week. Mr. Kamali, you have your hand up?
No, well, you just answered my question, because I was going to ask you, Mayor, that I'm going to work with Lindsay and then update Mayor and Council where to have that session. Let me just work with her and find out how soon we can get those response from DHCD and the Truist, and then we will update you guys from there.
Thank you so much. So can you do a check-in next week, either
Sure.
Tuesday or Thursday? If there's nothing Tuesday, just send us an email saying like no update, and then
Okay, I
if
will
you
do
do
that.
it like later on the week, give us the update. But that way we are on it, so that way I know our schedules are going to get very complicated. So we want to make sure we also respect your time, Lindsay's time, and the rest of our council as well as our city clerk. Okay.
No, we'll do that. I appreciate that, and I'll keep you guys posted.
Perfect. Council, how are we feeling about those steps moving forward?
That sounds really good, Selena.
All right, perfect. And in the meantime, Lizzie, if you could give us a beautiful writing document to get us all into the same page, that we appreciate it. Since we're talking about Potts Hall, I want to also make sure we address Jacob and Leslie. Whatever items you need from us to better advocate for us in September, please let us know as well, so that we start, our team could start preparing them and get the answers as we go through the process, okay? And okay, so I will say those are going to be the next steps. You and Mr. Kamali work together. Mr. Kamali will give us an update on Tuesday, whether it's like no update or an update. You'll let us know on Tuesday, and then you let us know later in the week if something else changed. Okay.
Will do. Will do.
And Leslie and Jacob with Greenville, they'll let us know. They'll let us know, council, mayor, and city manager, what they need from us specifically, so they could better advocate for us. So that way, as we go through the process, we get that information. And Jimmy, I know you have, you were gonna be sending a letter out, and you could send on behalf of Mayor and Council to be able to do a follow-up when it came to the secretariats to support for more funding, correct?
Yeah, let me, while Leslie and I forget the man's name, the people in
Jacob.
Greenville, we had a meeting, Selena and I met with Secretary Brinkley at Office of Budget Management about getting more money for the project, and he asked us to write a short letter to his assistant, just kind of outlining what's needed over the next couple of years. So I drafted one, and I think maybe we should share it with the Greenville team, and maybe they could follow up with it. He asked us to do it just to so be on their radar screen about getting additional money.
100%, I agree. So that was, it sounds like, you know, and I think that we have all made it very vocal, the whole council and mayor and our team, that this is a top priority for us. So we're moving towards every direction to be able to get funding aside from aside from the bonds from the banks. So I say, yeah, share with them so they could give us their feedback, and we'll get it signed and sent, and that way we're all in the same page on how we're moving forward with this project, because they're going to be consulting and advocating for us. All right. So I know. Thank you, Melissa. So we all have next steps to move forward. So I will say we have we could move on to the next point on the agenda. Leslie, thank you so much for your rapid turnaround response, and thank you, Mr. Kamali, for working with Leslie and making sure this is moving forward. Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Lindsay.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
All right.
We'll be hearing from you very soon, Leslie.
You will indeed. All
All
right.
right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And I don't see nothing from the members of the public. If you wish to speak on the item, just go ahead and put what item it is on. Members of the public, your name, your last name, block number, street number, and I'll call upon you. I have my chat up in front of me, okay? So we're moving on to the next item, public comments. Public comments are open to the members of the community that wish to speak. Usually they speak on items that are not on the agenda, or if they cannot be here present for when that item is touched. They share the comments. You have 3 minutes as an individual. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, you have 5 minutes. And you need to be recognized from the group to be able to speak, because everybody else in the group sees their time to give you the floor. So do we have any member of the community that wishes to speak on public comments? Anything on Facebook?
No comments on Facebook.
Thank you so much. And I don't see no comments on the chat. At least nothing, nobody type anything. Okay. I like to jump around between methods. Apparently my laptop just died. Let me connect it. But so we'll move on from public comments into closed session summary. Mayor and Council received the closed section summary for May 4th, May 12th, and June 8th, 2022 from Vice Mayor Stolfus. Jared, the floor is yours.
Yep. This is the closed session summary sheet. For May 4th, 2022, closed under annotated code general provisions, Article 305. Those who voted to go into closed session: Selena Benitez, Luke Chesek, Jared Stoltzfus, Jimmy Tarlow, Valerie Woodall. Unanimous of all elected officials in attendance: Selena Benitez, Luke Chesek, Jared Stoltzfus, Jimmy Tarlow, Councilmember Valerie Woodall. Those in attendance, same 5 again. And actions taken to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, disciple, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matters that affects one or more specific individuals. And same topic discussed, the same items. So, all right. And closed at meeting 9:42. Motion to close made by myself, seconded by Jimmy Tarlow. 5 members in favor, 0 opposed, or abstaining, 0 absent. All right. And that is it. Oh, then 12th, 7:50 p.m. Closed under annotated code general provisions, Article 3-305B1. Those who voted to go into closed session: Mayor Selena Benitez, Councilmember Luke Chesek, Councilmember Jared Stoltzfus, Councilmember Jimmy Tarlow, Councilmember Valerie Woodall. Unanimous of all elected officials in attendance, the aforementioned 5. Those in attendance, again, the aforementioned 5. Actions taken to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, disciple, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom the public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Topic discussed, same items. And close at 7:50. Motion to close the meeting made by Selena Benitez, seconded by Jared Stoltzfus. Members in favor 5, opposed 0, abstaining 0, absent 0. All right. And on June 8th, 2022, closed under annotated code general provisions, Article 305B1. Those who voted to go into closed session: Mayor Selena Benitez, Councilmember Luke Chesek, Councilmember Jared Stoltzfus, Councilmember Jimmy Tarlow, Councilmember Valerie Woodall. Unanimous of all elected officials in attendance, the same aforementioned 5. Those in attendance, same 5. Actions taken to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, disciple, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Topic discussed, same. And then closed at 10:41. Motion to close meeting made by Selena Benitez, seconded by Jared Stoltzfus. Members in favor 5, opposed 0, abstaining 0, absent 0. So, all right, thank you.
Just one addition, Jared, to a summary for the people that were on it. Our city manager was in our last meeting.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That would be the only addition I have to make.
Okay.
Okay.
Apologies.
That's fine. All right, perfect. Council, you have heard a summary of the closed session. Any comments? If there's none, we can move on. I'll take silence as a agreement and move on. All right, perfect. All right, let me see. Moving on to item number 7. Second reading and adoption of Ordinance 05-2022, amending Chapter 24, Boards, Commitments, and Commissions of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Rainier to add Title 3. Police Review and Advisory Board, and repealing Ordinance number 08-2020. The Mayor Council will have a second reading and adoption of Ordinance 05-2022. And this is the reason why we made a special legislative meeting and then we threw everything else in it, right? Okay, so Jimmy, can you just, this has already been read. It's had its first reading, it's gone to work session. This is the second reading, so it's up for vote tonight. I want to make sure that is clear to council and the community. Jimmy, can you give us just a few highlights of it? And then we'll move on to council to see if they have any, if they have a motion or what would they choose to do. Go ahead, Jimmy.
We passed a motion, ordinance, I think last year, to set up a police advisory board. But it actually had conflict with state law that allows county to do a lot of the stuff which we can't do. So we actually revised it, made it somewhat stripped down, where we're going to have an advisory board that's going to kind of meet with the chief to go over, discuss kinds of their policies and regulations, and also meet with the chief and the city manager to discuss budget priorities before it's presented to the budget. It's a way to get citizens involved without, and doesn't conflict with any state and code, which deals with things like complaints about the police and those kinds of things, which right now the city is not allowed to do. Maybe in the future we'll revise it. So that's it. It meets only, we also had, instead of meeting monthly, it only meets 6 times a year. And so it's a little bit of a strip down, but hopefully when it gets
Quarterly?
passed, we'll get people involved.
Did we decide quarterly or 6 times a week?
What?
Was it quarterly, the decision that we made, or was it 6 times
I
a
think
week?
it's 6 times, but I don't know. Why look? I mean, you have to
Maybe
go
we
down.
said quarterly, but can
Maybe
you,
quarterly. Okay.
Melissa, can you move it up? How do you call it, to where the change was, just so like it's up in the screen? Thank you, Melissa. You remember where was that, Jimmy?
It's here. It's just 6 times per year.
6 times is what we had
6
now.
times per year.
See the board should meet. Okay. Is,
I think we suggested that, so maybe we should make that technical. I think that was an amendment we made at the last meeting. So why
yeah,
don't we make that 4 times a year?
yeah, we that was the last one was made. Melissa, can you make that change on the screen?
Can always meet more, but
Yeah, but at least 4 times, because the reality is like, it's gonna, obviously it's gonna depend what everything else is going on, right? And I also thought, like, during the summer, how people are out doing whatever they're doing. Do you really want to try to squeeze 3 meetings in the other seasons, right? It's gonna be very hard. You might end up meeting like every month if you do it that way.
Right.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So Councilmember Tarlo had read a fair summary of the where is it at? Move it up. Ordinance 05-2022. So I'm gonna open up the floor to you guys. I'm gonna start with Valerie, Jared, Luke, and finishing with Jimmy. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for putting this together and working with the city and the county and attorneys to do all this. I support this. I think this is good.
Thank you, Valerie. Jared?
Thank you, Jimmy, for all your work on this. It's again, we've talked about this quite a bit, so important thing, and thanks for getting it together.
Thank you, Luke.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 05-2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is open for discussion. I will say my piece because I hadn't had a chance to talk. Jimmy, thank you so much for putting it together and carrying it through what today will be the finish line and being open, because I know we have gone through a lot of changes due to state law and what it looks like, and it's a living document, so we're going to continue making adjustments as needed. All right, thank you. So any other discussion?
just one.
Jimmy, go ahead.
Just before you close it up, but sorry, with the mayor and council, I'll work with the city about figuring out who actually applied beforehand and announcing, so then in September we'll be able to try and see if we can make some appointments, if that's all right with the mayor and council.
I mean, definitely like talk to whoever applied, but also put it out to the community, because part of my thing was, when I asked for this to be added to like the call out for people to join,
right,
was that they know what they were, what their expectations were, right? Seeing that the expectations have changed, maybe a lot for other people to want to join, because we were we definitely were short from the apartments representation. But I'm not sure if people are still feeling the same way or not. The other thing I definitely want to point out to you guys that the resolution says the Council of the City of Mount Rainier, and it's been brought up to the attention by the Lord that has to say Mayor and Council of the City of Mount Rainier. So this happens a lot. Like resolutions are all over the place. So I want to make sure it's pointed out as well. All right.
My only point was this, I'll take the lead in trying to just make sure people reach out and do it all.
Thank you, Jamie. So work with Melissa and Kamali, and they have that information.
Yeah.
And there is the website in the city has the committee's link so people could apply directly through it. That's something that we're moving towards, making sure that's done so they could get all the information we need. All right, thank you so much. So saying that, any other discussion? Hearing no, I'll call a question. Chesek,
Yes.
Tarlo,
Yes.
Stofus,
Yes.
Woodall,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So it's 5-0-0. Melissa for the record. Okay. And quarterly was fixed, and the other fix that I made is minor, so that could be taken care of. All right, perfect. So that is voted and adopted. So Ordinance 05-2022 has been adopted, and Jimmy will work with our team to do a call out to those that apply and submit what the new ordinance looks like, and at the same time, put a call out for more people. Council also work with our clerk to make sure we sign this ordinance because we would like to have a fully signed ordinance before we put it out, but if not, the verbal carries, even if none of us goes and sign it. So just FYI per charter. All right, moving on to the next one, introduction, adoption, emergency ordinance 06-2022, amending the code of ordinance of the City of Mount Rainier, Chapter 9, parking meters, Section 9-08, collections to provide for the engagement of debt collections contractors to recover outstanding and obtain fines for parking meter violations. 15 minutes, the Mayor and Council introduce an adoption to adopt the emergency ordinance 06-2022. So we do have Chief here. Chief Alston, can you give us a run through of what this ordinance does and what is the purpose of it? The floor is yours. Chief, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Mayor. Can you hear me fine?
We could hear you now.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. What this amendments to these ordinances are meant to accomplish is to include our automated speed program as well as any future red light camera program in the collections. As you look at Section 13-123, the Mayor and City Council may contract with a collections agency or law firm or use any legal means or use other legal means to collect unpaid fines on a citation for a speeding offense detected by the city's speed monitoring system, cameras, or failing to stop for a red light signal as detected by the city's red light camera program. If such fine remains unpaid for more than 60 days after becoming due and may charge the cost of such collection to the violator. So that's our main amendment to our current collections.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. I'm gonna open up the floor. I'm gonna go with Jared, Valerie, Jimmy, and Luke.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
I think I'm pretty good with this.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy?
2 sentences of why it's needed.
Say one more time, Jimmy.
Exactly why is it needed?
In order for us to go after citations that we have right now remaining unpaid for automated speed, because we started a new automated speed program in August of 2020. So we actually need an ordinance that allows us to go after these collectibles. And so I saw fit that we needed to amend our current ordinance because our current ordinance didn't cover those.
So in the past, we didn't do that. Is that correct?
Yes, in the past, when you had your last program and when you started that in 2009, you didn't include the collections.
Thank you.
Okay.
Luke,
I move that we adopt the ordinance as presented.
there is Melissa, can you move it up, please? Thank you, Melissa. All the way up. Thank you. So there's a motion afloat. Can you, Luke, can you add the ordinance number to your motion, please? 06-2022.
I move that we amend, that we adopt ordinance number 06-2022.
All right, there's a motion on the floor.
Seconded.
It's been probably moved and second. Any discussion? I definitely have something to say. I'm gonna have to put you after me, Luke. So thank you, Chief, for this and for bringing this to our attention so that we're in compliance and at the same time, we're able to take care of it. I know there's hefty amount of money out there that for people that have made that we need to collect. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Any objections? Abstentions? Hearing none. This passes unanimously 5-0-0. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, Mayor. Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Perfect. Vote on approval of the minutes. The mayor and council will vote on approving the minutes of March 2nd, special legislative meeting, swearing in ceremony, May 4 legislative meeting, May 12 special legislative meeting, and May 17 work session. These minutes were provided by our clerk at least 2 weeks ago for the meeting. So you guys have had the equivalent of 4 months, 4 weeks to take a look at these minutes. Is there a motion on the floor to approve this minutes as presented or any changes?
So moved.
Seconded.
So moved by Chesek, second by Stolfus. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any objections? Abstentions? Okay, the minutes have been approved unanimously, 5-0-0. Moving on to item number 10. Can I get a motion on the floor to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Seconded.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Abstentions? Objections? The item number, the adjournment of the meeting has come to an end with 5-0-0 at 8:14 p.m. Okay, Melissa, you need any clarification? Who made what, or you're good? I will take it she's good. All right, thank you. So moving on to agenda work session for mayor and council. This is a scheduled work session. And it's also virtually for today, Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. And it's been following the latest meeting. I will do a call to order. I'll do a call to order and council. Let me know if you need a minute to stretch. All right, Valerie Woodall.
I'm here.
Jimmy Tarlow. Jerry Stolfus.
I'm here.
Luchesek.
Here.
And I'm here. So all members of council, mayor and council are present. Review of the agenda. Vice Mayor, can you please go through the whole agenda? Starting with them, go ahead. Jerry, if you're reading it, we cannot hear you. And Melissa said she was good, so go ahead.
Yeah, number 1, call to order. Excuse me, sorry. Number 2, review of agenda. The mayor and council review the agenda for the meeting, adding or deleting topics of interest or discussion. Number 3, presentation and discussion on the Gateway CDC Artist Support Proposal. The mayor and council receive a presentation from the Gateway CDC on their artist support proposal. Number 4, presentation and discussion on the Campus Community Connection Project. The mayor and council receive a presentation from Mr. Fellows on the Campus Community Connection Project. Number 5, presentation and discussion on installing solar panels on the city's buildings. The mayor and council receive a presentation from Mr. Hayes of Advanced Solar on installing solar panel on the city's buildings. Number 6, support letter for the Washington Bridge Unit for Maryland Historic Trust Building Rehabilitation Grant. The mayor and council have a discussion on the support letter for the Washington Bridge Unit for Maryland Historic Trust Building Rehabilitation Grant. Number 7, spring park discussion. The mayor and council will ensure consensus exists to direct staff to work on investigating the spring, both to rehabilitate it and deal with the standing water issue over the course of the summer so they can have a cost estimate for the mayor and council when they return to session in the fall. Number 8, update and discussion on the comprehensive street and sidewalk study assessment and redesigning planning and traffic calming devices in zone residential parking. The mayor and council receive an update from the city manager and have a discussion on traffic calming devices in zone residential parking. Number 9, presentation discussion on infrastructure. Vice Mayor Jarrett Stoltz-Foos will have a presentation on infrastructure. Number 10, update discussion on youth council. Mayor Selena Benitez will give an update on the youth council. Number 11, ARPA discussion and update. The mayor and council will discuss the status of projects. Number 12, discussion on the city's credit card policy, 10 minutes. The mayor and council will have discussion on the city's credit card policy. Number 13, adjournment.
Thank you so much, Eric. Council, I need to know how do you feel the agenda? Anything you need to remove? Anything you're asking to add? Let me know. Speak up.
Can we pull off number 9? I didn't have something to talk about.
Number 9 will be deleted, and we'll just like make 10, 11, 12. We'll just bump them up. Okay. Council, anything else you see there that you need to delete, adjust? Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept the agenda with the addition of the removal?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been probably moved by Chesek, second by Woodall. Any discussion? Any objections? Abstentions? Hearing none, we have a working agenda. Thank you, Council. Number 3, presentation and discussion, the Gateway CDC Artist Support Proposal, 20 minutes. The Mayor and Council receive a presentation from the Gateway CDC on their Artist Support Proposal. And thank you guys for waiting with us. It's really appreciated, and I believe, let me see, who do we have here? I think I saw Anthony Lee for sure here. I think also saw former Vice Mayor Tanya Harrison as well. Let me see. So Anthony, I'm gonna cede the floor to you. If I miss anybody else from the Gateway CDC, my apologies, please introduce them. So the floor is you, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor Benitez and City Council of Mount Rainier. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I am Anthony Lee, a resident of Mount Rainier and president of Gateway CDC's Board of Directors. I'm here with my colleague and fellow board member, Tanya Harrison, past Vice Mayor of the town of Brentwood. We're here this evening to present our new program initiative of the Gateway CDC called Studio Lab. And Studio Lab is an ownership initiative of the Gateway Media Arts Lab, which is another program of the Gateway CDC. And what is Studio Lab? Studio Lab is a membership and training initiative of the Gateway Media Arts Lab to complement the current capacity of Gateway CDC in facilitating artist and small business ownership of properties.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
I just forward the presentation to our city clerk. Would like for her to pull it up on the screen?
Sure, that would be great. I'm sorry.
No
Yes.
problem. Go ahead, Melissa. I just sent it. I just sent you the presentation. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. So she'll put it in the screen so that way we will help you facilitate as well. Okay, thank you so much. And I apologize for interrupting, but I figured like I'll make it a little bit easier. Okay,
No,
and I'll share
great.
with Mayor and Council as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You let us know when you're ready, Melissa.
If it's any benefit,
Mayor, it's not loaded on my side. If he has it there, I could ask, let him share his screen.
that would be fine. I'd be more than happy to take the screen if that's okay. Let's see here. There we go. Share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, now it's visible. And Council, I also emailed you guys a presentation as well for your records. Okay, go ahead.
Excellent. What is Studio Lab? Studio Lab is a membership and training initiative of the Gateway Media Arts Lab to complement the current capacity of Gateway CDC and facilitating artists and small business ownership of properties in the Gateway Arts District and surrounding areas. And what we mean by that is what we're finding in this very competitive marketplace is that our artists are getting displaced and priced out of our current market. And what we'd like to do is help create a more vibrant community and allow these small businesses and artists to put down roots in our community and be here for the long term, rather than every time a property is sold out from under them and the rents raised outside of their control, that they would then have to find other areas to reside or take their studios to. So just give me 1 second here. I'm trying to make sure. There we go. What is the Studio Lab's vision? Our project vision is to enable artists to control their spaces, don't have to move when the building gets sold, as I mentioned, support stable practices, create more financial stability for these businesses, build artists and small business equity, maintain and grow the population of world-class artists in the Gateway Arts District. What we need to succeed, first and foremost, we need your financial support. Opportunities for collaboration would help between the municipalities and between municipalities and Gateway CDC, trying to hone the overall vision of the Gateway Arts District as a destination and invite guests and other people to our, I think, magnificent community. Provide technical support, provide professional in-kind services for these small businesses and artists, including real estate professionals, economic development professionals, and legal professionals. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Tanya Harrison, to speak on the specifics of the ask.
Thank you, President, for the introduction. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to come back and speak to you again in reference to our ask from the municipalities. So as you see before, we have our financial investment breakdown. And so our ask is simply $265, 265,000, I'm sorry, and that's across all of the 3 municipalities. And it will cover some staff expenses with the Media Art Lab, community and marketing manager portion of their salaries, one-on-one consulting mentorship with Studio Lab members, planning and strategy meetings with the redevelopment authority and other county and city officials, etc. And then we will provide site visits to property, concierge services with members and attorneys and other professionals, and weekly strategic planning meetings with Studio Lab advisors, plus associated administrative tasks. This also will allow us to have business support subsidies of 155, as you can see the breakdown, and that includes the rent subsidy, virtual capability expenses. We're looking for seed money for a revolving fund, workshops, accountants, and other professional and technical programming for members, and community sociocracy, and Washington area lawyers for the arts. And then also event management and consultation, IT consultant and incubator consultants. Marketing gateway, branding, signage, and studies, a big ask as well. So with that, we're asking each municipality to support us and partner with us in this endeavor. And we're asking the city of Mount Rainier if they can help us with the 150K, and you can see what we're asking the other towns. I want to pause right here to see if you have any questions, and at this time that me and Tony may be able to answer if you have it.
Okay, so I'm gonna open up the floor to Luke and Valerie. Luke as our former liaison to Gateway CDC, Valerie, our new liaison, and I'll move to Jimmy and Jared. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for putting this together, everyone. Appreciate all the work you do. Obviously, I'm very supportive of this, the work that Gateway CDC does and this sort of initiative. I know we've talked about this for a long time. How do we do something like this for the community in a way that provides sustainable housing for, not necessarily housing, but sustainable sort of art studio space for artists in the Gateway District. I think one question that probably my colleagues have that I'm just going to raise now, because I think it would be good to talk about is, what are the thoughts on, obviously we have ARPA funding that we could use to fund this now. And that would be my recommendation to the rest of the mayor and the council. But I think one of the questions that might be on folks' mind is, obviously you're coming to us to get some of this money now. In the future, it might be a little bit harder to do a capital outlay like this because you'd be talking about a regular budget. We wouldn't have this ARPA money to sort of fund from. And $150,000 is a big chunk of our normal capital costs, which go to streets and sidewalks every single year. So getting this out of the budget every year would be something very difficult. The financing discussion we had on Potts Hall earlier, the financing for $2 million is a cost similar to this. So there's all this city infrastructure that you would be competing against in the budget. So maybe just walk us through how this money really helps set up a sort of sustainable investment that you wouldn't have to be coming back to the well for investments like these year after year. I think that might help.
If I may try to answer that in part. And right now, part of the staffing monies are going to go towards a grant writer that we wish to place on staff to help us seek out and obtain and be successful in our grant writing proposals and go after money specifically targeted for these types of endeavors. There have been a couple of similar programs on the West Coast, in the Pacific Northwest, and we'd like to try to follow their models, but also seek funding from grantors to help sustain us long term. More specifically, we're working on our plan. We're still trying to finalize what our needs are going to look like and what participation will actually look like. So we're still, I think, honing in those long-term goals and what the financial support would look like so that we can target specific funders as we move forward and move this down the road for long-term growth.
And I also wanted to add too that we are definitely putting out, looking for grantors to help support us, as well as going to our delegation, asking them for, asking for acts to help support in this endeavor as well. So we're looking for that in the upcoming legislative session. We're also looking, like I said, just reaching out across the board for all investors to help. so this could be sustainable.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Tony. And former Vice Mayor Valerie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I know I just attended my first Gateway CDC meeting just a couple of days ago, so I'm still getting to know all the things that you guys do. Can you go back to the page before this where it had the budget breakdown of each entity?
Right here?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think like some of the, it sounds like, I mean, some of the funding that you need is staff support to start with. And then some of it could be grant funded throughout, through various grants. So I guess one question for you, the seed money for the revolving fund, what is that? And what is that plan?
So we're trying to help with subsidies as it relates to down payments. So that's going to be a reoccurring fund that we're trying to establish. We want to work with local banks, regional banks, because we know they have community and reinvestment responsibilities in that endeavor that we hope will help fund this capacity so that we can assist in gaining site control with some of these. I know we're going to be going up against some rather large institutional investors. So we want to try to help where we can so that our artists have a strong ability to compete, if you will.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah, I think those are funds that can certainly come through grants to get that seed funding going. So I don't really have any questions at this point other than that one. I think I will review this and I will come up with you offline to talk a little bit more about, getting this further along. So thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. And I'm glad you already joined. You're hitting the run. You're right in there. I know Luke is like sad tears, crying. No. Okay, Jared, then Jimmy, go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Tony and Tanya, for coming out tonight and with the for the presentation, following up from your initial reach out at a previous council meeting. So and thanks for going back to this slide. So this does give the kind of clarity for me to look at in terms of what the funds break down. I always been a big supporter of Gateway. I was, you remember, on the board for a couple years back in the early 2010s. And you all do really, really fantastic and meaningful work to the community. I would just probably echo Luke's, Luke's thought. We do have some flexibility, capital flexibility within the duration of funds available through ARP. But going forward, as you know, we have generally very little flexibility in terms of funds in our regular budget because almost all of it is staffing and basically going to a overloaded set of capital projects, street improvements, stormwater improvements and so forth. So that would be kind of my one major reflection. I just want to make that, following up with Luke's again, is that it would on an ongoing basis, it might be difficult to get ongoing support. So to the extent that, as you mentioned, this kind of gives you sort of the seed resources, if you will, to build sort of a sustainable strategy. That would really be positive. So that's all my comments.
Thank you, Jared. Jimmy?
I don't have anything to add, just thanks for all the work.
I thought you were gonna say I was also part member of the board. I was like, have all of you guys been part member of the board except for me? I'm gonna have to visit them and do a one-day board member event, right? But okay. So perfect. Thank you so much for bringing this information forward. We'll go ahead and review it, and we'll figure out where to move forward. I think that also it'll be wise from us to share with our economic development director, so that way he could give us some consulting on where to go when it comes to some of these things that that are listed, and looking forward to seeing how we could support and continue working together. So thank you guys for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you guys for being
Appreciate it.
so support for our events as well, and your support for Mount Rainier Day. We definitely appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good night, and thank you
You
for
too.
working with us.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item. Item number 4, presentation and discussion on the Campus Community Connection Project, 20 minutes. The Mayor Council receive a presentation from Mr. Fellows on the Campus Community Connection Project. Mr. Andrew Fellows, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to be in front of you and the council. I was here 3 years ago, well, I was physically in the Mount Rainier City Hall to talk about Campus Community Connection, and had a very good conversation about the idea of having Mount Rainier being part of Campus Community Connection. Later there was a second presentation scheduled in September of 2019, and there was a transition in the city manager, and then things happened, such as the pandemic, and so I'm finally back. What I wanted to do is give you a little bit of background on the project. I'm going to go pretty quickly because I realize you have a long agenda. I think the next slide, if you could go to, and I am going to go pretty quickly. Actually, we're on the wrong presentation, I believe. Would it be okay if I share my screen?
Yes, that's fine. Melissa, can you give him sharing powers? And I realized, Melissa, when they have the sharing, that's what you have been able to put in the chat, the time. And I don't have my phone with me. Text it to my city phone, okay?
So can you all see that?
We could see it now.
Okay, good. All right, so again, I'm going to go fairly quickly through these slides. I apologize for the brevity of the slides, but I do want to get to more conversation. The overview is just I want to talk about the background, some sample projects, some post-pandemic opportunities, the short-term collaboration opportunities, and also the long-term vision. This is a really long overview, which I'm going to really quickly say that a lot of the engagement of the campus, the university off campus, goes back to the early 90s, where they started to pick up what had been a fairly strong disconnect with the surrounding community. I came to College Park as a graduate student, and I was part of the 93-95 vision process. I then was involved in the development of the College Park City University partnership out of that. But when I got on the council, and then when I became the mayor in 2009, we really worked to ramp up the College Park City University partnership to make it what it is today, a really robust a collaboration around 5 different topics: transportation, housing and development, sustainability, public safety, and education. And as you know, Councilmember Woodall is the interim director, but it's only part of the engagement off campus. As you all also probably know, Sustainable Maryland, certified out of the Environmental Finance Center, engages with Mount Rainier and all 157 municipalities around the state. Good Neighbor Day really is based in College Park. It's the Office of Community Engagement working with the surrounding community of College Park to do things once a year, but we're working to expand that. There's the PALS program, which is Partnership for Action, Learning, and Sustainability out of the National Center for Smart Growth. They mostly work with counties all over the state. I began Campus Community Connection in 2015 when I was working for the Environmental Finance Center, and then moved it to the Center for Smart Growth and the College of Information Studies. And we also, out of the Center for Smart Growth, developed the Purple Line Corridor Coalition, to work to implement the purple line in a robust way towards revitalizing communities without displacing and gentrifying the existing communities out of existence. And then around 2016 and still going today, the Smart Cities Initiative, deploying new technologies, working with faculty on campus. And then beginning in 2019, I started to help develop the iSchool iConsultancy, which is developing capstones. The university communities that are currently part of Campus Community Connection are Berwyn Heights, College Park, Greenbelt, Hyattsville, New Carrollton, Riverdale Park, University Park, and Prince George's County. For the entire county, but particularly representing the jurisdictions near the campus like Adelphi, Beltsville, East Riverdale, and College Heights Estates. There's a really deep connection of the University of Maryland with the surrounding communities, and I just put up the founding of all the different jurisdictions, including Mount Rainier in 1910, which is much more embedded in the local community than College Park, which was incorporated in 1945. And so there's a long relationship with the university and the surrounding communities, but it's just been very distant. Also, the University of Maryland is a pretty vast institution. There's 12 different schools and 12 different fields of knowledge, and so that's one of the things that makes it hard to interact with the community, the campus from off campus. I'm working with many others to make it easier to do this. There's also experiential learning opportunities with College Park Scholars Honors Program, first year innovative research experience, which is called the FIRE program. The Academy of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the Do Good Institute, the Partnership for Active Learning and Sustainability that I mentioned earlier, and capstone courses that are happening throughout the university. Students going out in the community and doing projects as part of their academic learning. And then there's other university self-interest, such as civic engagement, competitive grants to fund research. And really, as you may have heard, the University of Maryland talking about making a much greater college town, or like with a national reputation. And even when I was the mayor of College Park, it had to be about all of College Park. But even then, when I was thinking about it from the university's perspective, it really has to be much more broad, many more jurisdictions than College Park. And so since I've been at the university, it's been the focus on expanding the engagement of the university with other municipalities. These were some of the previous capstone projects that I just gave an example of some of the early ones up to 2020, but it's really ramped up. There were 29 total back in 2020 in the first 5 years. There were 63 high school capstones in the spring of 22 alone. And so it's really ramping up in our engagement. The short-term collaborations, somewhat related to the COVID-19 impacts, is all these. I won't go through them, but they've affected you. They've affected everyone. They've affected people on the campus. And so it's a really great time for us all to work together. Right now, we're going to be having at least 60 total iSchool iConsultancy projects in the academic year coming up. We also continue to work on developing grants that are partnering with communities. I listed some here, and then there's the ongoing engagements with the surrounding projects, I guess, or programs. So the long-term vision, though, it's really thinking about, this was written originally around when the pandemic hit in 2020. But it really still exists today. With the climate crisis, we know things are going to get worse before they get better, with impacts of the climate crisis. Healthcare is a national problem, but it's also a particular problem in Prince George's County related to the state of Maryland. Budget recovery is going to be tough, and there's a structural budget deficit in Prince George's County that we residents and people who work in Prince George's County need to partner around. I won't go through all the other ones, but all of these are possibilities for projects that you're thinking of locally that you might want to partner with the University of Maryland. So I'm going to stop there and just ask for questions or comments. I put together another slide deck and I sent them to you. I don't know if we have time to go through them, but it's just examples of other projects that we worked on. A lot of them are data type projects where you can do data visualization with any data sets that you have locally. But it's really anything you're interested in sort of going deep on that your staff may not have the time or capacity to do, to partner with us. And I also just wanted to make a comment that I know last time I was here, Jack Sullivan, who is a faculty member of the university, had partnered with the city of Mount Rainier at that time on a local project. And so it happens all the time. And I know I'm not bringing something completely new to you. What I'm proposing is that we partner towards really ramping it up to having an ongoing 10 projects or a number of projects going on at any time. So I'll stop and ask for questions. And Mayor Benitez, I'm happy for you to call on, or I can call on people if.
I'll go ahead and call on the council. Thank you so much for your presentation. Valerie, I'm going to call on you first.
Yeah, well, thank you, Andy, for presenting. I'm excited about this. I know you were here before and, things have changed, but this is a really good opportunity for city and city staff, city council and city staff to think through some projects and things that we might need support on that the campus can bring to our community. So I think we have some time over the summer to think about that. And then hopefully we'll be back and working with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Jared?
Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate the presentation and, on the opportunities before us. So I'll just echo Valerie's comments as well. Appreciate it.
Luke and Jimmy?
Thanks, Andrew, for coming by. We had also worked with Maria Day Marshall and she had brought us a presentation a couple of years ago on helping us to do a strategic vision making process with the city. COVID hit and we had a transition in city manager. And so the stars didn't align to actually see that through. But we have budgeted money to go through a strategic vision making process over the next year. I'll speak for how I see it. Obviously there's going to be broad themes. Obviously we want to do a lot of community engagement around where we want to see things. But for me, I want to see a really professional strategic vision that cascades down the general themes of where we want to be with quarterly deliverables for each department. And I know there are organizations that we're going to sort of go out to bid to see if they can provide that services to the city. But is that sort of level of, granular detail with these sort of deliverables, is that something that the university has the capacity to do for us on one of these projects?
It is, and I spoke to Dr. Marshall about the project she was envisioning, and at the time she had not yet talked with you, or I don't think she'd gotten a strong engagement, but I was planning to do whatever she wanted me to get other parts of the university engaged in what she was doing, because some of it is opportunities for doing interdisciplinary work where things like environmental health, you could bring in the School of Public Health to do things. Certainly planning, which is Maria Day Marshall's sort of expertise, is a field in and of itself, but certainly possibilities of combining that with other things.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jimmy, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's all I have to add. Don't want to continue, but I think did whatever else said.
Right. So I will say that the partnership between the city and the university has been long-standing. I think this definitely gives us a way to organize ourselves and try to figure out what else is out there, because it's a huge university, right? And but that way, if we have a source of it, like a point person, we're able to say these are the projects we have and here's the opportunity. To me, one of the things that makes me happy is the fact that interacting with the youth and seeing their ideas and putting hands-on on them and building their resumes in a sense, but also they're able to come back and visit to see the projects that they did. So that's something that I always have enjoyed, working with the University of Maryland. And I think this way, it's like I said, we're able to funnel it into one person and reach out to cast the net to make sure that we are seeking local resources and at the same time working a partnership. So I'm really excited about being here. I know you guys have come a couple of times. Council, thank you so much for for putting this value, making sure we follow through with this as well. And I look forward to, because regarding the strategic plan, it's not just like for the departments and not just for the council, but to me, it has to go all the way to the committees, because we all should have a vision together how to carry through the city. And I think that's something that's going to be very exciting. And not only that, you also get to meet our city manager, Mr. Kamali, and the rest of council. So that way, we know that if any bidding goes out, that you guys also get it. So that way, like we have that resource available as well to continue moving forward. And I will put you in connection with other cities as well that I know that could potentially benefit from this as well. And I couldn't think of one. So I will like forward you their information as well, so you could present to their council as well, because I think it's important for us to utilize the resources. Okay. So thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to continued collaboration. Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, moving on. Ooh, you're moving the agenda, Melissa. I'm all like, it's the videos of the agenda moving. Okay, moving on to item number 5, presentation discussion on installing solar panels on the city. Hold on, let me move the screen so I can read the whole thing. City buildings, 20-minute Mayor Council receive a presentation from Mr. Haynes of Advanced Solar on installing solar panels on the city buildings. As you guys are aware, the City Hall has panels that are linked to the DC grid. We do have other real estate property, and part of the things that I want to make sure we also do is like utilizing some of the ARPA funds to be able to continue thinking green, but at the same time, make sure we're investing in the city, and not just currently, but in the future moving forward. So Mr. Haynes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Benitez. Thanks for inviting me, Mr. Kamali, and it's nice to meet your council members. I'll be as brief as possible. I can share my screen, right? Share screen 3. Okay, so Advanced Solar is a full service engineering, procurement, construction firm. We operate in Washington, DC. We also do a lot of business in Maryland. We have built about 1,500 solar projects over the last 3 years, pretty much right in your neck of the woods. We do a lot of projects that are, even though they're Maryland, they're eligible for DC solar renewable energy credits. And the buildings that we analyzed do in fact, fall into this, we kind of consider it like a Goldilocks zone, where you're on a feeder that's serving the DC market, or it's shared with the DC market. So it makes, solar investments lucrative. And we've got a couple different designs that I wanted to show you. And I also just wanted to go through our core programs just to show you, how this works and how it can actually either make the city money or save the city money. So without further ado, I'm just going to kind of jump in. So this is the Melinda Biles building that we did a rendering for. It's a 28 kilowatt system. We believe it should produce about 32,554 kilowatt hours. The next building that we looked at is the Potts Hall Welcome Center, which has been a topic of conversation today. So this building right here, we did determine that it will need a new roof. So, we have solutions for that where we could actually, do the infrastructure improvements necessary on some of these buildings, and we can kind of go into more of those details. But it's this building and then this building right here. I looked at your code compliance building, but there's just a little bit of shade that's growing over that building, and it wasn't clear whether those trees that were shading the code compliance building, if we could do anything with those. If there's something that can be done, then we can look at that building as well. But these two buildings right here, 42 kilowatts, making 47,421 kilowatt hours. And then we did a rendering for the police station. That's a 58.8 kilowatt system that makes 61,878 kilowatt hours is what we're estimating. And then this public works building, This is a great project here. We do believe that there's going to need to be some tree work that's required in order to make this one work. There's some tree trimming that's needed on this northwest corner, and maybe even to cut back some of these trees on the southeast. But we have 72 kilowatts making about 81,000 kilowatt hours. And then just to kind of dive right into the programs. So the total of these systems is about a 200.8 kilowatt system. And collectively, we anticipate about 223,000 kilowatt hours worth of production. So on this first program, Advanced Solar has financing partners that basically pay us to build and develop these solar systems for them. They take the tax credits. So they would get, the federal investment tax credit, and they would also take the depreciation benefits, and they would get the solar renewable energy credits. In exchange, though, we would give you this 223,000 kilowatt hours that we're producing. So it would allow you to basically every kilowatt hour that we produce, you get for no cost, and Pepco is not going to bill you for. So if, for instance, you've got a 14.5 cent per kilowatt hour rate with Pepco, our solar energy rate is 0 cents fixed for 20 years. And the power costs, if energy rates go up about 3% a year, we're forecasting about $805,000 in savings without any upfront cash outlay or dipping into the coffers to fund this project. So that's option one. Option two is an actual purchase option. And we can leverage some of our partnerships to help you, even though your city can't directly take advantage of the tax credits, like the investment tax credit or the depreciation, because it's a non-taxable entity. We have Collective Sun is basically through what's called a sale leaseback mechanism. We can set this up where you can own the solar system, and Collective Sun will actually take the tax credits for you and then pass some of that back in the form of a rebate. So what we're thinking here is like base cost of like $534,000. We have roof replacements for the Welcome Center of $17,469 that would be added to that. But then we would deduct about $71,760 for the Collective Sun discount. And then there's a Maryland energy grant that we could collect. Part of the requirements is that your company has to be NABCEP, North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners certified. It's a lot to get out, but we are. So you would, in fact, be able to qualify for the Maryland grant. So base price is about $449,000 after incentives. If, depending on time frame, we could potentially, pencil this in a little bit sharper, get some discounts, make some smart decisions as far as solar panels. We call them module purchases. The Biden just did an executive order that alleviated these tariffs on solar panels for the next 2 years. We've yet to see that come across as in savings yet, but solar panels have gone up. I'm paying almost twice as much as I was about a year and a half ago for solar panels. So, depending on what the city's timing is, some of these numbers could come down. This is kind of like a worst case scenario. So you've got, your initial investment, after this is about $449,000. We're not including this $30,000 Maryland grant. It's just not a line item in here. I'll have to fix that. We're thinking that over 30 years, 25 years, the value of the DC solar renewable energy credits is almost $1 million. And it's going to generate over 25 years, about $1 million worth of energy savings. So, that's where we're arriving at this, profit over the course of 25 years. And then I have this table here that's broken out that we can kind of go through. This is just a quick investment summary table. This shows you system production every year, and it declines slightly. The systems naturally degrade about 0.5% a year. They're typically guaranteed at 25 years to make about 84 to 86% of their original power output. So that's kind of what this is showing. And then here's your electric rate that's going up. We're forecasting 3% a year. We can change this modeling, but there again, we think, it's generally pretty conservative. I mean, we're seeing that now with, fears of inflation, and, we do believe that energy will go up. I mean, if you just go across the border into New Jersey, some of these markets in New Jersey are already paying 27 cents a kilowatt hour. So this is just a great way to, protect yourself and insulate your city against rising electricity costs. SREC values. So this column here is just what we're defining as SREC values. So the reason that these solar renewable energy credits exist is there's mandates on all of the utilities and the electricity suppliers, even the third-party suppliers that are selling energy into DC, whereby 2032, they want 100% of all that energy that's sold in the district to come from either a tier 1 or tier 2 renewable energy source. So what ends up happening in a market like DC, you don't have the available land to build out the big solar fields. So the utility companies are, at a crux where they're unable to build out their own facilities to meet the mandates. So they rely on their clients, whether that's residential consumers or businesses, to go ahead and put solar assets on those roofs. And every time a solar system generates 1,000 kilowatt hours, it generates what's called a SREC, or a solar renewable energy credit. Those, that supply and demand, at some point, just a couple weeks ago, these solar renewable energy credits were trading over $400. They can be locked in, or I'm sorry, they were trading right around $400. But these can be locked in. We have partners that we can explore locks where you can lock in, solar renewable energy credit prices for 3 and 4 year clips. So what we're doing is we're just forecasting that these years where we're saying that these solar renewable energy credits are worth, in the 300 range, the fine for not complying is $500 for every 1,000 kilowatt hours they're short, or about 50 cents a kilowatt hour is the math on that. These years right here where we were forecasting a $200 value, the standard alternative compliance fine, it drops to $400 during those years. And we're just saying that the SREC is going to trade about 50% of the standard alternative compliance fine value. So keep in mind, these standard alternative compliance payments, or SACPs, they act as a ceiling. So an SREC's never going to trade higher than the fine because the utilities will just pay the fine. So typically they do trade way more in value than 50% of the fine value, but we're trying to be conservative in our estimates. So down here where we've got $150 value. Yes.
Time is up for the presentation, but can you wrap it up in the last 2 minutes?
Sure.
Less, so we can open it up for questions, and then you could fill in whatever's missing based on the questions. Okay. Go ahead.
Yep. I was just going to go through the last two. So this is when the fine's worth $300. We're predicting $150, and then when the fine drops to $100, we're forecasting a $50 SREC. So, and then this table, just runs everything together. It's got your cumulative cash flows over the years, ending in that 1.5. And then here's just, all these blue dots. These are installations by Zip. So that's all I have. I know it's late. You guys want to get out of here. So
thank you so much for the insightful presentation. Luke, I'm going to open up the floor to you first.
No, I just appreciate this this presentation. I think it's something that the city should do. We should try to get solar panels on as many of our buildings as possible because we have so many that run off that DC grid.
Yes.
And the SREC is just so much more profitable than what we have in Maryland. So it makes sense to me. I'm happy to make investments, off budget out of our reserves. But obviously this would be something that we'd have to pick up sort of later in the year after our city manager has the chance to, probably get a few quotes from folks to comply with our, sort of purchasing process. But just Nick, thank you so much for coming out and share this all with us. Really informative and really appreciate it. And my recommendation to the mayor and council would just be, having our city manager do the due diligence and coming to us with some proposals. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Jimmy?
I would agree with Luke. I mean, some of these discussions, quite honestly, I kind of need a recommendation, direction. I mean, it's nice to hear it, but it's like a little bit overwhelming. So hopefully the city manager will come back with some kind of proposal that we can kind of stick our teeth into. But thanks for making the presentation.
Thank you so much. Jared, then Valerie?
Yeah, Nick, just a quick question on the SREX. How do you forecast what the SREX look like 20, 25 years out?
So that's what we're doing. We're using, it's that standard alternative compliance fine values. So in these years, the fines are $500. And we just basically look at historically how they trade in comparison to those fine values. So typically if you look at the last couple of years, we've been over $400 for most of the time. And the fines $500, so they trade, roughly 80% of the fine value. So that's why I'm forecasting this at 50% of the fine value. So I guess when you explore other proposals, just kind of be cognizant that there's different ways to forecast like what these values are. So somebody could be telling you, either a lower or higher value depending on what their forecasts look like. But I'd rather be, forecasting more conservatively. That way, everybody's happy and we don't, overpromise.
Yeah, no, and that was kind of my question, because obviously you can forecast the energy and generation and the electricity cost avoided, but the SREC market, I mean, I have panels on my house and the Maryland ones have been all over the place.
Oh, I know. I saw them go from when I was first got in and they were $177, and I watched them go to $5 over a 6-month period. So it's certainly a risk. DC is a little more insulated because, again, you're not competing against the utilities that are making 150 megawatt facilities that are eating into the SREX. But yeah, I mean, it's a small market, so I mean, I know that we're continuing to build and continuing to scale, and I can only imagine there's other companies that are taking advantage of this too. And yeah, I mean, it's a real fear. That's why about 80% of what we do as a company are these option one, the power purchase agreement, because a lot of our customers and clients, they don't have, they're more risk averse, and they'd rather let one of these investors take on this, this risk versus them. So.
Okay. No, thanks for that. I appreciate it. And background and clarity. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Valerie. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for making this presentation. I don't know if it's shared with Mayor and City Council, but I'd like to see a presentation if we can look at it just a little more in depth. And I agree with Luke and Jimmy, I think, and probably Jarrett, that we should move to solar energy if we can. And so I look forward to having some more proposals on the table and taking a look at our options. So thank you.
Great.
So thank you so much for answering our questions, for the presentation. I think I'm hearing from council that we are asking our city manager to go ahead and go through our process to figure out what else is, to go through a bidding process as our rules state, right? I do have a question about the panels. I noticed that they were in front of the buildings. Is that in alignment with the county ordinance to have in front of buildings? I thought you couldn't. And let me know if there's a misconception on it or if it's just a case for us. But for Potts House specifically, I saw that they were in front of the building, and I'm not sure if that will be affected to MUTC when it comes to what can we have in front of a building, especially a historical building.
So if it's historic, it might have to go through historic review, or not might, it will. So that's something that, we'll find out as part of, our fact finding on these projects. Just to be candid, we got these projects, we literally just completed the surveys on these a few days ago. Last week, we surveyed some of these. So there's definitely some tests that we need to run, beyond this. But we do believe that these designs, they should meet, the applicable permitting and zoning requirements. And, we do a lot of permitting work in Prince George's County. I mean, a lot of our projects are in Prince George's County. So I don't really, other than, I'd have to talk, what is like Mount Rainier Historic Preservation, or what's the name of the entity that has oversight over this?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I said Jared, and then Jimmy. Jared, you have an answer to the question or comment, and I'll go with Jimmy. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's Nick, there's a downtown sort of zoning committee that oversees the things in our downtown zone in accordance with the county planning requirements. But the other piece, just for your background, is if you use an MEA grant, Maryland Energy Administration, and it's on a historic building, there's some review requirements, and Maryland Historic Trust and Maryland Energy Administration often prohibit installations that are visible, from the street, or affect what is called the historic view shed, which can make it very difficult to get sometimes make it difficult to have a viable solar project. So I just wanted to flag that for you. It's an issue.
So this building is the only one that may be of concern. The other buildings, I guess, because they're ballast systems where they're not really going to be visible. Well, the police station would be visible by the street. Is that designated historic?
No.
I think that one might.
It's not historic.
Yeah. So I don't want to go too deep in the weeds here, but I wanted to flag that for you. It's an MEA requirement on their grants. Yeah. And then Selena, just last comment was, as we give direction forth, we also want to give direction through the procurement process, but also on the models we're looking for, because there's several different ways to approach a project like this, and clear about what we're asking for. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Jared. Jimmy, have you raised your
I must have been.
And can we add like at least 2 more minutes because time is up? Sorry to cut off, but Melissa's already warned me. So can we add 2 more minutes? So council?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'll second it. All right. No abstentions. All right, Jimmy, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
No, I must have been asleep at the wheel. This makes sense at all the buildings except for Potts Hall.
Okay.
Potts Hall is not just a historic, Potts Hall is like a national record of historical buildings, and I think it would be major obstacles in terms of putting solar panels there. Something to talk about. But that's it's not just a normal building in our city. It's one of these 1905. It's built in a historical register. And all the other buildings are great. Potts Hall, I think, would create some major obstacles. We could always talk to people, but I think it's going to be a uphill battle on that one.
Okay. What I can do is I can send this proposal along, but I can also revamp and take Potts Hall out of the equation and give you
I think it'd be better just because money we're getting, and we're trying to get money for historical renovation and trying to do historical renovation grants, and also doing that might be a conflict.
Understood. Okay.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. So that way I want to make sure that was clear, so that way we could more or less be clear on what buildings we could touch and what it really looks like when it comes to the financing, and definitely I'll raise a big red flag for me, because I know everything we've gone through with it, right? But I want to thank you so much for being flexible and make sure you're listening to council. And when it came to departure, 100%, right? So that way we could compare apples to apples. And Nick, we definitely hear you to make sure that you are putting numbers that are conservative to make sure we don't overshoot it, and be very aware of that. So we do have procurement process. I want you to make sure, that's the reason why we have to make sure we go out to bid, to make sure that we talk to the appropriate amount of people. If not, it's going to be shut down on our own. And I would hate to do a false start. And to Council and City Manager, thank you so much for entertaining this. And it's looking very possible for this to happen. So we'll continue the discussion. Mr. Kamali, you have direction from Council on what to do when it comes to this, to come back and give us more information when it comes to the procurement process and what kind of projects we need to do, and make sure that Potts Hall is excluded, because of we could revisit Potts Hall once construction starts working on Potts Hall, because we're gonna have a revamp of it, and that could be part of the discussion to figure out even if it's even possible.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
so
you,
Nick, thank you, Mr. Kamali. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, and definitely all the great information you have been able to provide, okay?
Thank you, Mayor Benitez. Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Mr. Kamali. Take care.
All right,
Yeah, thank you.
moving on to the next item, support letter for the Washington Bridge Unit for Maryland Historic Trust Building Rehabilitation Grant. The Mayor and Council discussion and support letter for the Washington Bridge Unit for Maryland Historic Trust Building Rehabilitation Grant. Jared, the floor is yours.
Yep. So folks, just some quick background on this, the Washington Bridge Unit. And for folks, anyone that's watching, that is a building on Eastern Avenue. It is basically a social gathering place, a club for bridge players. It's been there for quite a long time, and it's also a hub, historic hub for, especially in the African American community, for bridge players. And a number of us have toured the facility, and the members with the club's president. It's an aging building, not a lot of well used, but not a lot of quite a bit of deferred maintenance. So the club had emailed me and asked if we'd provide a letter of support for their application. And I want to thank Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Kamala, for including them into this funding. The Maryland Historic Trust African American Heritage Preservation Program has a grant program that supports capital costs and other things related to the sort of maintenance and upkeep of building sites that are of importance, historical and cultural importance to the African American community in Maryland. So that's actually, there's no budget ask or anything from the city. All they're asking for is a letter of support from City Council, Mayor and City Council. That's a requirement of the grant application to the Maryland Historic Trust. And that is exactly what I have put in front of you, and that's right here. So Selena, is there I guess any additional information or any way you want me to kind of view the letter?
It was just the letters in front. Is like you mentioned, it's no budgetary cost to us. It's more of the support for them to be able to get grant funds from the Maryland Trust African American Heritage Preservation Program. Yep. So it's right there. And if we have a consensus, because we cannot vote, we have consensus, this letter will be signed and given to them. But I thought it was important for them for the letter to come here. So instead of doing all individual letters, it could be like a complete letter with a consensus of support from all of us, right? I know Jimmy and I have a tour the facility. We have good relationships with them as well. Mr. Kamali, Mr. Hopkins have also been there as well. It's great. If I miss somebody else, I apologize. So I would say we cannot call for a vote, but if we have consensus from all of us, we could send this letter on behalf of Mayor and Council. So I need to know, Oh, I said you, Jared, first. You didn't even hear me. I said Jared and Jimmy and I. But let me know if you guys have consensus. We could move forward. We'll sign it off and send it in behalf of all of us.
And just one kind of quick note, they sent it on Friday, quick turnaround because the grant is due July 1st and they need to submit it in their application. So
I could literally go sign this tomorrow after food distribution.
Sounds good for me.
Perfect.
Yep.
Valerie, how are we? Consensus?
Yep.
Luke? All right, perfect. So you city manager and clerk, we have consensus to get this letter read. You guys already have it in letterhead. If you guys could make it available, I might be able to sign it on my way to the food distribution tomorrow morning, so it could be sent out as soon as you guys walk in the door tomorrow. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you. Everyone.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody, for being there. Definitely, this is the jewel in the city and in the whole county and the state. So, the more resources they have to continue, it's the best for all of us. Can I have the agenda, Melissa? I know Melissa's like, what? 5 more minutes? Okay, Melissa, let me see. So we were item number 8.
Not going to do 5 hours.
8. I know. I'm moving you guys as fast as I possibly can. Spring Park discussion, 30 hours. Mayor and council will ensure consensus existing to direct staff to work on investigating the spring, both to rehabilitate and deal with the standing water issues over the course of summer, so they can have a cost estimate for mayor and council when they return to session for the fall. Luke, I'm gonna cede the floor to you, followed by Jared.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is one that, we sort of paused work on this after hearing from our arborists that we contract with, hearing from the tree commission, their recommendation to delay any construction on Spring Park until the fall. And then there seemed to be consensus for hitting pause on the design because there just seemed to be some confusion and lack of consensus on where exactly we do the construction. And given this delay, if there's any sort of changes to the plan, we can consider, seeing as how there was no longer the pressure to get the $50,000 from the county if we were going to wait until the fall to do the work. So my recommendation to the council is, we've talked about the spring a lot. I know that was talked about when Chevali had the project in hand and was working with Jack. When the project moved to Brian Nedler's hands, we sort of dialed down the scope in order to get within the sort of, make what we thought would make people happier, who are opposed to kind of a grander design for the space. And so with that, we abandoned any sort of construction work on the spring, and it seemed like the cost of that would be really high. At least those were some initial thoughts from folks. But there does seem to be consensus from the community for doing something with the spring if we could. The problem is we've talked about how expensive it is, but we've never really investigated it. We've never hired a professional to come out and say, yes, this would be the cost of refurbishing the spring, or this would be the cost of doing X or Y or Z with the spring. And so it seems like a sort of primary piece of information that we need in order to decide what else we can do with the park. If it's affordable to do something with the spring, maybe that goes along with whatever we end up doing with the park. If it's not, we can sort of forget that and move on to another design. But the first thing is to find out what we would do with the spring itself. So I'm trying to see if there's consensus from everyone to have staff work this summer while we're out of session to find out if somebody, a hydrologist or someone else, could take a look at the spring and tell us, maybe give us a few options. Say you could totally revitalize the spring, make it a working spring, and it would cost X. Or you could redo the brickwork or remove the bricks and do stonework, whatever, and that would cost Y. And have them come back to us in the late summer and say, this is what it would cost to do that work. And then by that time, I think I could have for the mayor and council a proposed sort of re-engagement plan with the community. And, that would give me some time to think about it this summer and present that to you all in September. And, you know, in the community could be re-engaged, and we would have the information about how much the spring would cost, and so on. So that's sort of,
That's Melissa. You need to wrap up your sentence, Luke.
no, that's it. That's kind of my recommendation. And so I just looking for a consensus to get staff to do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jared.
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, no, I just want to follow up with Luke. I'm 100%, you know, on board on continuing the direction we were going and making this space a you know, this public space that we own part of the you know, a continuing and a more accessible asset to this community. So you know, I'm personally fully in support of a direction to continue working on pathways towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna stick with Ward 2, Valerie, and then Jimmy.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to investigate the different options for revitalizing the spring, for activating the park, making it a place for everyone to be. I know that when we met at Maryland Municipal League, you know, we talked to the DNR about project open space funds that could potentially put into this, as well as they have geologists and hydrologists that are potentially available to us. And so connecting city staff to them, I think would be a good thing. Yeah, and I think, I mean, if the spring is revitalized and can be a place and having historic markers around there, I think that's a good thing. So I think getting a number of ideas and options together would be really good. So thank you for working through this and working with the community on this. I look forward to next steps.
Thank you, Valerie. Jimmy?
I'm on board. Luke, it's all right if we agree right up what you just said. So I mean, we're throwing a lot on the staff of exactly what you're asking them to do, like a you know, 3-sentence thing, so they know what we're suggesting.
Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Luke, I will ask for you guys. I'm not sure who spoke, but I'll wait for the floor to be called. I will ask for you guys. One is clarity, because I'm getting a lot of questions. What does revitalize means? We're saying we're trying to have a drinking well in that space. We're saying this is going to become X, Y, and Z, because it's not clear to the community what you guys meant, and they have a lot of questions on, do we really think like that's going to become drinking water fountain or a drinking well? Luke, can you also clarify? Do you have the capacity to clarify that? I guess I should say. I don't want to put you on the point.
That was part of my ask. I think we need staff to figure that out. That was sort of what I was saying, when a hydrologist could look at it and say, you know, you could revitalize the spring and have water for people. That would cost X, or that's not possible. You could just redo the brickwork and make stones there. That would cost Y, or you should do Z. You know, we don't know what it is. And so that's sort of on the work for staff to do, to talk with the hydrologist and talk through what are the options for revitalizing the spring and what would that look like, because we don't have the answers.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I want to make sure we're not directing staff to say, go open a faucet there for us drinking water. We're doing an investigation of what the options are. And then based on what the costs and the possibilities are, we'll be able to move forward with it. Am I correct on that statement? Okay, thank you. So if you could put like the 3 sentences together, it will make it a little bit easier. But I want to make sure, because I did got a couple of questions about this item and what exactly did it meant, and if we were running pipes, and people are definitely concerned when it comes to like what it'll create for pipes and different things that will happen to their house to be able to retain the pressure and everything else. But okay, perfect. Also at MML, there was a hydrologist I spoke to. And I'll be referring that number over, even if it's just for questions, to see if that's the scoop of what they do. Because it is a smaller park. I don't know how many of them will be able to engage to want to do this. I think that usually when they're thinking of hydrologists, they're thinking really big park or really big water projects instead of like a small pocket park. So I'll forward that information as well. Okay. All right. So Mr. Kamali, do you have any questions on how to move forward. Luke is gonna be typing down, and he'll share with us to make sure we're all on the same page for you to move forward with this.
No, thank you, Mayor. I do appreciate if Luke, just send us an email, and I will work with Rocio, Director of Public Works, to get all this, question answered for Mayor and Council.
Perfect. Valerie, also, if you could share the resources, I'll share mine.
Yeah,
so
we
that
appreciate
we do a
that.
leeway. And Luke, send the email to all of us to make sure we all basically reach consensus that that's what it is. And so that way there's no in between. All right, before this goes any further, Council, anything else to add, or do you want me to move forward? It looks like you're shaking your head, move forward. Okay. And members of the community, if you have something, type in the chat and I'll call upon you, okay? All right, move on to the next item, number 8. And before we move on it, Mr. Kamali, can you let us know is it 30 days that a bid needs to go out before we do anything? If we decide to do something for Spring Park?
What do you mean 30 days? I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
I said, in order for us, because I know the tree commission has said that during the fall is when we should get some work done. So maybe Luke, can you ask some work on some timeline to make sure we're able to I think it's 30 or 40 days that the RFP needs to go out before something is enacted. So that way we don't get our stuff in the weeds, and next thing you know, it's like winter and we miss the window again.
Yeah, I don't see us meeting a fall window. I think that's a really aggressive timeline to get anything done. I don't see that possible.
Even if it's not this fall, even if it's for next fall, right?
Yeah.
But that way we have a plan laid out between investigating and having it done. Because what I don't want is for us to fall into this like last 3 years that we keep missing the window, right? And that way we're able to say like, okay, hopefully in the September meeting, we'll get a check-in to figure out what it looks like, or in the summer. So that we know like, this is the steps that need to be placed. So Mr. Kamali, if you could help with that, what are the steps and Rocio's and your end to follow through with whatever steps to take place? So we have even if it's a year ahead review of what we're looking at. So that way for next fall, not this upcoming fall, for next fall, we're ready to go with everything that needs, and we'll give you guys lead away with enough time and not try to rush it in a matter of weeks or months, because that was part of the problem that we were having prior.
Mayor, that's my goal for the September meeting, is to have a timeline spelled out and to just stick to that, so that we can get all the community buy-in, all the community decisions that need to be made, and prepare for the fall of 2023.
That works. I just want to make sure that on Kamali's and Rocio's side, we get their side of what they need, because that was part of the thing that we were missing. I know they gave us a layout at the end, but that way they're included in the conversation earlier. So that was September, we have a full runner, our end as council and their end as was required by our chart to make sure they follow the next step. So thank you for that. Okay. All right. Perfect. So moving on to item number 8, update and discussion on comprehensive street and sidewalk study, assessment and redesigning plan and traffic calming devices and zone residential parking. Mayor and Council will receive an update from the city manager and have a discussion on traffic calming devices and zone residential parking. So Mr. Kamali, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. As we discussed this one last time in the legislative work session, and the council member Valerie was asking about the timeline. So I reached out to the tool design, and they said they don't have any problem with pushing back the timeline in order for us to be able to apply for the grant by next May. So this is something that we need to discuss. I need to discuss with them during the kickoff meeting. And I have already reached out to the city attorney with your permission and the council to draft a contract and to be able to establish that contract with tool design, if it's okay with you all, with you all. And I will definitely share the information with you moving forward. This is in regards to the tool design study. And regarding the traffic calming devices, I have reached to several, companies and contractors. They need to know what the package is going to include. As I told you before, told all of you before, for few numbers of the speed bumps is going to be very, very expensive for the city to do that. And so I just need some time. And I believe that, as I mentioned last time, we better wait for this study to be done. And I will definitely ask Tool Design to make priorities for those locations that we have petitioned for.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Jimmy, I'm gonna go with you, Valerie, Luke, and Jared. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kamali. I think at some point, we should send a note to either people who sign the petitions or let people know that that's what we're doing.
Okay.
In other words, that people petition, and we've had a hearing, and we feel that we have to deal with this holistically. I'm not sure everybody will like that, but if that's where we're going, I think we at least should let people know that their petitions didn't just go in a black hole, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Valerie?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kamali, for looking into that. I definitely think moving the timeline up so that we can have a plan kind of in hand by early to mid-May would be good, just so that, because I know that I know Jarrett has his federal grant opportunity, but that's for next September. Sure. But still, I think like there are a number of other opportunities for grants that open up in April, May, and June. And so making sure that we have a plan in hand at that time so that we can apply for grants during that window is really important. So thank you for looking into that.
Thank you.
And I agree with Jimmy about the letting the citizens know that we're going to do a holistic study and prioritize these areas that were petitioned for traffic calming.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Luke, Jared?
Agree with Jimmy and Valerie on what they said. Thank you, Mr. Kamali. Thanks, everyone.
Jared?
Yeah, no, 100% agree as well. I just wanted to clarify, Valerie, the $1 billion a year for DOT's new Safe Streets program that opens in May. So
Sure.
if that's kind of the big kahuna in terms of like a ton of money that we want to be chasing, want to have something ready by. So, but I agree, we should be looking at all opportunities to fund pieces of this as we can. And a lot of those may require less defined package plan like the Safe Streets program. So, and then, on the second point, fully concur with Jimmy is like, we should just let folks know about, that we're planning to do we're incorporating their requests into the overall planning process, and we're using that to chase in order to chase the capital resources we need to do this right. Which is not really doing traffic calming, really slowing streets down is going to be a bigger investment than just a handful of speed bumps here and there. It's gonna be some wholesale changes and real capital investment in our infrastructure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. In agreement with all of you guys, make sure that we let them know we're prioritizing the spaces. The other thing is like to take into consideration as the winter hits, that's when our streets and sidewalks take a pretty bad beating, right? And I realized that a tiny little size of a penny might look like, okay, when they come to the study, and then once the winter has gone through, that could look like a crater, and it went from priority 3 to priority 1. So as they, as they're doing the study, also take that into account. But I think that we need to try to aim definitely to finish it before March.
Sure.
That way, we have everything ready to go, enough time for our team to put together what we're gonna go after. So start looking at what the time looks like for us to be able to tackle that grant, and how much time is needed, so that we could go through it and pre-plan by when we're gonna be submitting the application, if May is when it opens. Okay, so thank you, everybody. And We didn't have anybody from Tool Design. I was asking Mr. Kamali one of the emails to see if they could be here, so that way they also get to meet the new team that is in front of them, right?
I'm
so-
sorry, Mayor, because I was not asked for that, but I can have them to be in the next, after the
That's fine.
September to come by and, have a presentation for Mayor and
Yeah,
Council.
please, because that would also gives the
Sure.
residents a visualization of what was being done. And it's a little easier than us explaining. We could direct them and they could also participate and they could,
Yes, ma'am.
they could hear
Will
the
do.
feedback as well. Thank you.
Will
All right.
do.
So council, anything else on this point?
So just a question, Mr. Kamali, you're going forward with a contract with them and then having your first kickoff meeting sometime in the next couple of weeks?
Exactly. I have the city attorney and she just sent me the draft 2 days ago, but I was waiting for you guys to have this meeting tonight. And so hopefully by tomorrow, I'm gonna just, send it to them and execute it as soon as possible. And then I will share the information with you guys.
Okay. Yeah, like keep us apprised of when the first
Sure.
community meetings are.
I'll do that.
All right, anything else, council? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm gonna move on to the next item. Item number 9, update discussion on youth council. Mayor Benitez will give an update on the youth council. So I gave you guys the documents on the last meeting. I haven't heard no feedback from you guys, so I'm assuming this meet you're fine with it. And if that's the case, I haven't sent it to legal yet. And Mr. Kamali, I know, did you send it to legal yet or no?
No, not this one, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we'll send it to legal so that way they could draw the ordinance or whatever is needed. I will ask you guys to please take a look at it. And if you guys give me any feedback by Friday, it's very basically straight up forward. And we have allocated funds for them. So I want to make sure we have enough time to recruit the board so that way they could start working and utilize and start engaging them. Okay?
Will do.
So, all right, perfect. So let me know by Friday. And if it's not no other update, then we'll send it to legal to get feedback. Okay? And we'll have it ready to go as soon as possible. So I'm assuming since you guys said nothing, you guys have reached consensus on it. That's what from the last meeting I heard. Okay, so that is my update. I did talk to their mayors and council members at MML about this, and they were really eager to see what it looked like. I will be touching bases with the mayor in College Park, Tacoma Park, because they have a running program, and I did touch bases with Patrick, and they are working on a model coming forward, and I was able to give him a bit of a review of what it's looking for me, how I'm envisioning this program. So it was a good conversation. All right, perfect. Moving on to item number 10, ARPA discussion update number 18. The mayor and council will discuss the status of projects. Do you guys have any updates that we need to read through, or you guys just want to is there any updates that you got? Look, do you have any updates whatsoever in there, Mr. Kamali? Because I mean, if we don't have to go through the whole entire document, we could just move it for September.
I think we could move it for September. We would just need to add sort of the gateways request to it, but we would just move that to September.
So first of all, are we all in consensus to add? This doesn't mean we're approving
just for consideration. Yeah, just for consideration.
So let me clarify, right? So are we in consensus to add it for consideration and to the ARPA document? And if you guys are in consensus, just shake your head because I could actually see all of you guys. Yes? Valerie, Jared, Jimmy, yes? It's consensus to add it, not to discuss it. We're not voting, just so we discuss it into further in September. So we have it as a placemaker so we don't lose sight of it. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I'm teaching my son not just to this, but to do this.
All right.
Yes.
All right, good. Valerie, Jared, Luke.
I'm fine adding. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine adding it for consideration. That's fine.
All right. So put it right there, and I will give you one update. Sorry. I was at the Arte para Todos today kickoff event. Oh my God, I had to hold back my tears to see how engaged the families were, and see how active they were. I mean, it was really nice. I got to speak to a few of the families. I know of quite a few of the families through like my interactions in the community, right? But it allowed for me to see firsthand, well, things I already know, right? Being a migrant family, right? But it doesn't just focus on the opening session didn't just focus on the kids, but also on the parents, and working in unison through art, through movement. So a big thank you to Joe's Anteparato's team, Thomas Stone Elementary, Ms. Celeste, for making it happen. And it was really nice. I'll share some of the pictures with you guys and some of the videos, but it definitely have them in motion. And I'm happy to see that they're going to be continue engaging with the youth through the summer. So maybe you guys could like stop by and give a quick visit to them as well then, and see what impact is already this first class made, because I got to talk to them after the meeting, after their meetup. Like, so I literally ran from there to here to our regular meeting. So so that's the update when it comes to ARPA. It was very positive. All right. So anything else, Council? No. All right. Moving on to item number 11, discussion on city's credit card policy. Mayor and Council have discussion on the city's credit card policy. All right, Mr. Kamali, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate this. Well, in August, when I became the city manager, I just want to, give you some background. So I had to pay almost $11,000 on the credit card debt. And when I reach out to whoever I reach out, I couldn't find any receipts. And the credit cards were under Latasha's name. So I had to go ahead and cancel those credit cards. And to be honest with you, we don't use that much credit card that often. And unless we go on training, or mayor and council going on training, they need to book the hotel. So, but I reached out to the bank, and I've applied for the credit card. Unfortunately, the SunTrust and the BBT bank, they merged, and they have the new bank right now. So I have sent the information to the bank. I'm waiting for the bank to process the credit card, which is going to come under my name. Then I can share it with mayor and council. And I would like to make a recommendation to mayor and council to keep this credit card at the finance department with Natalie. And if the department heads or the mayor and council or myself wanted to use the credit card, we have to get the approval, not the mayor and council, the department heads, to get the approval from the city manager. And then we will share the credit card, and we need to have the receipt to be provided to Natalie in order for us to maintain that account. And I want to make sure that it's not going to be abused like before. And I still have the document for that $11,000, purchase. And I can share it with mayor and council. I was not able to find any documentation. And I hope in FY21 or 22, we're not gonna have any trouble for those, use of the credit cards. That's all I have to say, but I'll definitely give you an update when I receive the new credit cards. But right now we have asked the staff, if they need to use the credit card, they can use their own if they want. Otherwise, we have electronic payment. We can do EFT as long as they provide us the account number and the routing number for the vendor. We can send the money right away. So, however, mayor and council are advising me, I'll be glad to take your direction.
Jimmy, go ahead. The floor is yours.
So just let me understand. So your proposal is that there be one credit card that be at the finance director's office, and if people need it, they can either ask the finance director or get the number and use it. I don't have a disagreement with that. Credit cards are very complicated. In the union movement, which I'm involved in, usually there's like 1% of the officers who are in jail because of the abuse of credit cards. So some control over it is useful. As a trial, if it doesn't work, then you could do something else. So But it's, I mean, just my understanding is that you're saying you're getting a credit card, it will be at the finance director's office, and that people can use it by contacting them. Is that correct?
No. I said that the only people gonna be using that credit cards like chief of police, director of public works, in case if, or economic development
But
directors.
there'll only be one.
Yes, it's only one credit card. We can, because we cannot issue different credit cards out under each department's name. So that's gonna be a long, process. And I like to keep the financial, transaction in control. I'm sorry, because I paid $11,000 before, and however you guys want to do it, that's fine with me. But, I just want to make sure that we keep track of, spending, because we use the purchase requisition and we have electronic payment. So the department have to send their purchase requisition to the city manager or to the finance department with their receipt, and we process the invoice. So I don't see the much use of the credit card unless, mayor and council want to use it for, different usage. So, but for past 11 months, we have been without credit cards. And I don't know if there has been any trouble, but I've been trying to help as much as possible. Anybody wants to reserve the room, we have helped them to do it right away. But somehow we just have to have some control over that, spending, and make sure that it's not going to be abused. I'm sorry.
Luke, Valerie, Jarrett.
I just appreciate the update, so we know where this stands, and I support the direction of making sure that there's a tight sort of just the credit cards held tightly. This is not the first time that we've had issues with credit card use at the city, unfortunately, and so I just want to make sure we're very cautious about how we use it. So thank you very much.
Jarrett, Valerie.
Yep. No, thank you for the update on this. I just, I appreciate your attention to the, I appreciate your attention to the issue of access of credit cards and the past abuse. I will echo Jimmy, probably not with numbers, but credit card abuse has been an issue in almost every organization I've ever worked in before. And it's just, I know it can be a lot of oversight, a lot of work. So, I appreciate the attention that you're paying to keeping it locked down. Just want to make sure that we have a opportunity, when we need it, that it's accessible and usable under appropriate appropriate checks and balances for when we need it. Because I know there are cases when we are doing things that require sort of a quick way to pay that's not the city's kind of purchase order process, like MML, like events or whatever else. So just want to make sure that balance is there. But we really do appreciate your attention, and especially just more broadly, cleaning up the kind of and make sure there's checks and balances on the city funds and so forth. Thank you.
Valerie.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Kamali. I think this is important, like everybody said, with tight controls to make sure that nothing can be abused. I think, I don't know if there is already a policy on credit cards and credit card usage and procedures, but I think that would be a good thing to add to your city administration procedures and policies document, just so you have it in writing. Everybody's clear about what the rules are and things like that. But otherwise, thank you for your attention to this matter, and thank you for continuing to lead the city in a strong financial stance.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is a credit card policy, and if Elisa needs to tighten it up, then she could do that, but there is one. And so if there's any reports of credit card misuse, please send it to like mayor and council, because I'm not sure what specifically we're discussing. The other thing is I echo the fact that we need to have one. I'll give you guys at least one example. they had to book a room for me because I went to a conference, and one of the staff members put it in their car, and the hotel held the person's car funding for 3 days. Although I had, like, once I got there, I put my credit card to cover the cost, and then the money was given to me from the city, right? But it basically, like, the person's car and my car were both, like, on hold for payment, to make sure that it clear on my end, and then it, like, it held it for 3 days, and it was unfortunate because it was a weekend, so it felt like even longer. So, but having the credit card available, it allows us to, when we have the food baskets. Last year we put $1,000 in my credit card, and I'm not saying nothing was given, so I put it in my credit card to buy cranberry sauce, especially for the bigger projects. They didn't take any other kind of payment, right? And it's understandable, it's a supermarket, but so this will allow for us to be able to have it as accessible. And usually when mayor and council uses it, we usually give the direction to the staff, in this case, our city manager, what is it that we need it for? And it's usually for booking stuff or purchasing for, like, the events that we're working on. It usually has not been the case in the past where where mayor or council has walked out with a credit card to make a purchase. At least for my person, I will tell you, like, I avoid that dearly, completely. I don't think once in my life I've done that in the last 5-6 years. So if Mr. Kamali, if the policy needs to be adjusted, please work with our city attorney, so that way it could be brought up to us, so that way we could vote on it. But there is a city credit card policy, so that way it's able to cover the things that you have concerns about. So that way those measures are put into place to have some security and some extra protections. Okay.
We'll do that, Mayor. I'm sorry, I didn't say that, the mayor and council. I will share the information, the invoice from the credit card. Like, there was a charge for tractor supply. When I was trying to find the receipt, there is no receipt, and no one was admitting that that charge was made. So I'm trying to make sure that we use it properly. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, I know that you guys are using it properly. And if you need it anytime, I will have it available for the mayor and council. And even though if I'm at home, I will bring it to you guys. I'll make sure that you guys can use it anytime you want.
And like I said, we usually will forward the request to you, because I know, like, from previous experience, council basically says, like, this is the information, and give you guys the information.
No, thank you,
You
Mayor.
guys
You
can
don't
book
need,
it
you don't
and
need
you
to
have
send
it.
me a request. I'll bring it to you guys. Don't worry about it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
But please do work with legal, so that way
Sure, we'll do that.
that you
Yes.
have a concern about is handled, and
Okay.
that way the credit card is protected. Okay.
I will do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Council,
Thank
is there anything else you guys need to add? I know you guys want to stay here until midnight, but I have a very strict policy to go to bed. All right. Nothing. Okay. Item number 12. Do I have a motion on the floor? Does somebody needs a big discussion?
So moved.
Here we then review upcoming events.
I will read them right now. I know, Melissa, I'm sorry. Okay, upcoming events. We have the weekly food distribution tomorrow, June 23rd, 3301 Chillum in Mount Rainier. The big Pride Parade is June 27. The employee engagement barbecue is June 28. Please be advised, the administrative office of the city of Mount Rainier will be closed for that day. Independence Day is July 4th. City administrative office will also be closed on that day. And last but not least, we do have COVID testing kits that we're going to be giving out. And the city will share the new regulation, because some of they have expirations date. However, the expiration date has been extended to 3 extra months according to the American Health Department. So we'll be sharing that information. If you need any, please go to City Hall. I think we still have a few of them, but we'll be passing them out tomorrow as well. Valerie, do you have your hand up regarding an upcoming event? And
I do. The Pride Parade is actually June 25th. So you had said June 27th, just FYI.
Yeah. And the city will share upcoming events. Was that me playing soundback? Okay, Valerie, June 25th. I'm so tired. I swear I read 25th. My apology. Jimmy, you're next.
Mayor, just on something you said about the kits, about the expiration date on some of those kits. Some of them have like an old expiration date, and somebody should check on that.
June and July. So we gave all the June ones where I was in a mission, and Melissa could definitely know I was, in Rocio. All the ones that were expiring in June, they were given out months ago. We took those out right away. The ones that are expiring in July, June and July, they both have been extended by 3 months, and that's based on Go Maryland Health Department. I actually had a whole talk to them at the MML convention, and they had a big sign that said, please be advised that the test kits expirations have been extended. And so, which is fine, but we have maybe a box and a half left.
Good.
And we have given, I'll give you guys the full report on September, but it's been more than 20,000 test kits that have gone out through the city. And I was gonna see if there's any more that they have seen that the expiration change, or they have other ones for later expiration, because our numbers have gone up, not just us, but like there's been a bit of a hike, and people are a bit concerned when it comes to the summer. And Jared, do you have something else to add before I send my final comment? Jared, you had your hand up?
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay, Luke, you're good?
Good.
So last but not least, we want to congratulate all of our youngsters that graduated today. Rainier Elementary, Thomas Stone, they are in graduation mode, and it was really exciting to see a couple of the classes graduating. So congratulations to our little ones graduating and moving on to the next level. It was very exciting, plenty of tears from all the parents, and I was one of them. Valerie too, no. All right, perfect. Okay, I love you guys dearly, but it's
Before we adjourn, just are we going to email about the date for the meeting? How do you want to handle that? I know
Send
we
it
need
via email.
Okay.
Put it in email, because we're not going to have a meeting to have a meeting.
No. Just we'll send emails to people, because I know we have a meeting.
Regarding the meeting for Potts Hall on Tuesday, Mr. Kamali will give us an update, whether it's no update or moving forward, right? So that we will know like when the next follow-up meeting is, and then he'll let us know like on Wednesday, Thursday or Friday if something has changed.
Sure.
So that we
Will
have
do.
enough time to post the agenda up, if need be. But that's basically waiting on the information to be able to move a little bit. If now we're gonna have a meeting with no information, and I know all of us have a very tight agenda.
Yeah.
All right, and if
Thank you.
anything, I'll write it down. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been probably moved by Tardo, second by Stolfes. Any objections, discussions? Any abstentions? Hearing none, this meeting has come to an end at 10:03 p.m. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, staff, for a quick turnaround of like billions of documents for us as well. We definitely appreciate you, and we'll try to avoid as many meetings as we can, okay? All right,
Take care,
so
everyone.
thank you guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kamali.
you, Melissa and Jared,
Thank
and
you.
Chief Austin
night.
and Rocio.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rocio.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Chief.
Good night, Mr. Kamala.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. Melissa, that letter for the mayor for tomorrow.
Yes, Mr.
The
Kamali.
Washington